more than fan of the issues that they use their platform to talk about. And so I don't see it as like you need to vote any one way, but the presidential race is a huge platform, and we can use them to platform ideas that we want to talk about. And so the fact they're talking about big pharma, the fact they're talking about like censorship industrial complex, all these issues that like I talk about all the time, I am 100% gonna, piggyback on their platform to get more people talking about it, because hopefully that can lead to the other presidential candidates having to talk about things like censorship as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's the way I see it.
I agree.
But I think that we'll have to see what happens tonight, and we'll have to see what happens with RFK leading into the election before anyone is wisely deciding their votes, because there's a lot that could happen between now and then. And I don't think that Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee.
Yeah.
So if you
have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. You guys are talking about censorship. I thought we had a First Amendment. I didn't realize we had censorship here in the United States.
Not in America.
What? What are you guys talking about? Are you guys from North Korea?
Yeah.
You guys keep talking about censorship. Are you guys from Korea? North Korea?
Yeah, we are. So someone said Rumble has been taken down. Well, yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow. All right.
Are you talking about Rumble, the whole platform, or our stream on Rumble? That's what I want to know.
And while we're asking,
your stream is down, but I just went ahead and live streamed, or whatever you call it, also double streamed this, so it'll be on my X and on my YouTube channel for anyone who's watching as well.
Great. So if you guys think that if Biden is going to be taken out, and that's what they're planning to do is let him fail, who do you guys think that they'll replace him with?
Hillary,
Obama, Michelle,
Hillary.
I think Hillary would be such a big mistake.
Yeah.
And I think they know it. I think that Michelle Obama has been making rumbles online that sound like getting ready for the race. And I think Gavin Newsom is a really obvious and scary contender.
It's definitely Newsom for sure. I mean, guys, this is why I tried to recall Gavin Newsom in 2020, is to make sure that he never would have a chance. And I think we did some damage to him, honestly. I mean, we didn't recall him, but we got enough votes to at least get him on the ballot. But I mean, he did. You guys remember he did this whole like
is a complicit person like Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
You remember he did this whole tour around America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Actually,
I mean, I think he's conflicted just because he hasn't changed his name.
Yeah.
Gavin
Newsom. But look, I mean, in all honesty, though, the reality of Gavin Newsom is, why would you ever bring in a dude that is almost damn near completely destroyed California? And obviously, Ian, you're in California right now. I don't know. Well, I did know what part it was you were in a couple days ago, but what do you think about?
I've been all around California at this point.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you don't live in.
It's really hard for me to give a quick take on California right now, because like I am just a visitor. I'm not paying taxes here. I'm not running a business here. I'm not owning a home here, and I'm just touring around to like all the sickest parts and hanging out with my buddies. So it's been awesome for me to run around California for the last week and a half. But that is not the same thing as like how well is Gavin Newsom managing California.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, have you been able to go to the parts where people are on the side of the road in tents and stuff? Have you seen any of that?
Actually, I haven't really. Yeah, I've not seen that really. I've been kind of like popping between specific places. When I was interviewing Nicole Shanahan, I was expecting to be in San Francisco and expecting to see all that shit. But I actually was in like another like kind of town outside of San Francisco that was a lot nicer. And so I've actually not really like, I've seen way more people shooting up in my own hometown in Washington State than I have in California so far. And I think that's just by virtue of where I've been. I know I love that.
Well, I would love for you to go to Skid Row and just like see what it looks like there.
I don't think you have to go to Skid Row. I was in San Francisco last fall, and you saw graffiti all over, and you saw encampments all along the freeway from Oakland all the way over to San Francisco. I mean, granted they weren't on the bridge itself, but they were everywhere.
And that's what I just don't understand. If they're going to put Gavin Newsom as maybe the candidate, and you look at his home state and what it's become compared to what it was, why in the world would they even consider picking him?
I mean, they managed to get Joe Biden into presidency. Like,
seriously.
I mean, like,
the thing is, like,
their disinformation campaigns are strong.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's about a matter of like who's going to play ball too, right? And he's Nancy Pelosi's like nephew-in-law or whatever as well. And he did this whole campaign where he went across the entire country. I mean, he was definitely being set up for being the next president. No doubt.
Yeah.
Wait. Newsom is Pelosi's nephew-in-law?
Something like that. I'm a little bit off, but yeah, he's like was married to her niece or something like that. I can't remember. But somebody in the chat help us out with that.
Yeah,
that's
I remember when we were calling him, they were all like, "Oh, Nancy Pelosi is his aunt, and can we recall Nancy Pelosi too?" That was my favorite when people come up to me when I was collecting signatures. Can we recall Nancy Pelosi too? I would just laugh.
Only if you hurry to recall her before she dies of old age.
Yeah,
she's gonna pull a
I would like to
Einstein, and she's never gonna leave. You know.
Yeah.
I would like to recall our governor and some of our congressional people.
Oh man, I mean, the politics is a shit show. We just did the like I said earlier, we did the Assange episode, and when you get into the WikiLeaks and see just how corrupt, man, like at least even just the Clintons, in particular Hillary Clinton was. I mean, it is insane, and most people just don't realize that, and most people also don't realize that WikiLeaks was like 99% accurate with their leaks. So the shit that came out was like real life.
Do you think? I want to know what topics you guys think are going to come up. Do you think they're going to talk about Julian Assange? Do you think they're going to talk about the war in Ukraine? Do you think they're going to talk about Putin? Do you think they're going to talk about UFOs? Those are the topics I'm curious about.
I think they will talk about Assange because I think that Biden's going to try to take credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What?
Because obviously,
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, Trump did not pardon Assange when he had the opportunity to do that, and now Biden is letting him basically go and go back to Australia. So that's going to be a good thing for Biden.
But you also have to remember Mike Pompeo, which is Secretary of State for President Trump, wanted Assange murdered.
Dead.
So,
yeah.
I would like to see Trump bring up Biden's daughter's diary and his son's laptop and all the content on there that's now been officially verified by the FBI.
I got to pop off too. My homies are all getting back. We got stuff to get done.
No, not a problem, man. Well, thanks for coming.
Good to talk to y'all for a bit. See you soon.
See you.
I agree, though. The laptop thing would be big to bring up. Definitely the diary as well. If you brought the diary, the diary is sketchy. There's no way to spin the diary.
No. The laptop
James O'Keefe, like, didn't they steal it from James O'Keefe or something like that?
Yeah, well, they didn't even steal it. He was going to give it to them because he's like, I don't know how they got this. Like, this is something that should be given back. And then they raided his house, took his cell phone, then removed him from control of his company.
Yeah,
like can't talk about those long showers with daddy.
No,
yeah. I didn't realize there's no live audience. That's a big game changer.
That's negative for Trump, though. That's bad.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, let's see if we're getting audio. Let's see how fast we get quote unquote sued.
Current president will debate
I can hear. Nice.
U.S. president
Can you hear?
as their party's
Yeah.
presumptive nominees of first.
I'd like to see Trump make a statement and just walk out.
Our viewers
Yeah.
How long is this supposed to be?
Absolutely.
90 minutes.
This is the CNN
90
presidential debate.
90 minutes? Is that how long it
This
is?
debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN.
By the way, guys,
CNN
we will
International,
probably
CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol.
and investigator
This is-
podcast, Ashton Forbes.
CNN Espanol, please.
And I will break away from this every once in a while. So, guys, make sure you have it pulled up somewhere in the background. The reason I'm going to do that is in the event they want to sue. We don't use the in its entirety, and so I just want to let you guys know
they're not going to do shit. CNN's full of crap. We got fair use. There's no chance.
Yeah. All right, Ashton, I'm coming to you.
I'll defend you. I'll help write your counter.
Between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes.
Who cares what side of the screen people are on? This is only CNN brain people who care about this.
An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or
You guys
response
could have solved
is
that.
at the moderator's discretion.
I mean,
When it's
just
time for
listening
a
to these
candidate
rules
to
and watching
speak,
this,
his
I mean, you
microphone
can
will be
get
turned
how
on,
screwed we are as a
opponent's
country.
microphone
Yeah.
will be turned off.
Like this is
Should a
this is
candidate
what all these people
interrupt
are
and
watching.
his
And you
microphone
just
is
watching
muted,
these
it will
morons,
be
moron
difficult
one and
to
Dumb and Dumber
understand
2 there.
for viewers at
It
home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes.
I'm just happy there's even one debate.
There is no
I mean, is this going to be the only one?
Pre-written notes,
maybe.
Probably.
Contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate.
All right, here's the drinking game,
By
guys.
accepting our invitation to debate both candidates and their campaigns.
Anytime they're assholes towards Trump, you got to drink. Okay, so we're probably gonna
have you guys?
I'm already drunk if that's the case.
Oh, look, here comes Biden. Look, here he comes.
Have you guys seen that bingo
Is that really
card?
Biden?
Yeah, supposedly.
Have you seen the bingo card that's going around about a drinking game with Biden?
Yeah, so look at him.
He's
He
welcome
looks
the 45th
lost.
president of the
Yeah,
United
he is,
States.
probably.
Looks lost.
Donald Trump.
I like his swagger. I give him that.
I just want to state for the record, I'm not a Biden or Trump supporter technically, so I'm neutral in this. So if I just rip on people, that's why.
And let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
You got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach.
He's on a lot of drugs.
Some of them.
Nice.
Collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back
I wonder
together.
what the under-over on one of them stroking out on this is.
We created 15,000 new jobs.
Right?
We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing.
Can somebody check the Vegas odds on that?
That's good. I mean, it's a valid question, right?
People are still in trouble. I come from Scranton,
First one
Pennsylvania.
Isn't he drooling out of the right side of his mouth?
Things weren't able to be met during the month.
It doesn't look like it's moving all that
The price
much.
of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those.
He memorized this 100%.
Oh, 100%. He got it. Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
going to make sure we build.
He's probably got neuro.
Units. We're going to make sure we.
This
cap
is the
rents.
first question, guys.
Corporate greed can't take over. The combination what I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem.
Holy shit.
He's reading it.
In addition to that,
looks like it.
we're in
Looks
a
like it.
situation where if you had
He
to
knew
take
the
a look at all
questions,
that was
obviously.
done in his administration,
Of course he
he
did.
didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos. Literally chaos.
Look at Trump.
And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs.
This is like a robot reading a script that he memorized.
You know what it's like? It's like if you ever dated a girl in college who took a lot of Adderall.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like,
Never did that. Don't know how it is.
Poetry by Jean Delaton on Louis. Like,
$200 for any drug, all the drugs they could include beginning next year.
And
The situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans.
You're telling me that he didn't have this question beforehand?
No, he definitely had that question. No doubt.
Thank you,
They told him
President
that
Trump.
question.
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country.
huge.
We've never done so well.
Huge.
Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't
love
end
how
up
he
in
says
a
China.
Great Depression, the likes of which we had in
I miss it.
1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible.
You know what I like about
the only
Biden?
jobs he created
It's
are
how
for
loose he is,
illegal
right?
immigrants and
Right,
bounce
he's
back
there,
jobs, the bounce
in the
back from the
moment.
COVID.
Are you talking about
He has
Black?
not done a good job.
Cracking
He's done a
his
poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
He's like
Thank
frozen.
you, President Biden.
He's
Well, look, the
frozen.
greatest economy
On
in the
here
world.
we go.
He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know,
He's
the fact
reading
of the matter
something.
is that
He's
we
fucking
find
he's
ourselves in
reading
a
something.
situation
Look at
where
him.
Yeah, no, he's
his
100%
his
reading.
economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history,
Oh my
$2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger
Are
than any
these two
president has
old
in
guys
one
the best
term.
we can do?
He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more
Oh.
jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant, and the military, You know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position
what
where
is Afghanistan
you
at
had
now?
a notion
Everything,
that
everything we
we
left.
were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
What?
President Trump, I want to follow up.
What the hell is he talking about?
You want
allowed to respond?
This century? Then he shortens it to this decade?
With the minutes we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S.
I love this.
How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others.
God, I love that he said it.
It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that Trump actually understands economics.
There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power.
I also love that he kind of looks like an angry baby.
In the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs.
It's awesome.
And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt.
Probably the drugs.
So far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion.
I don't know. There's a couple off-color jokes I can make
many
about
of the
Rothschilds
tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question.
Hey, at least they knew exactly what he was talking about.
Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation.
It's a little early to be
slipping. We got 1,000 trillionaires.
If they just paid 24%, 25%,
that's interesting.
Either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do.
Why hasn't he done it then?
Care, making sure that we continue to strengthen
I
our
think
healthcare
they're
system,
letting him die.
making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with.
I think someone's in his ear
with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do.
He's falling apart.
Look,
oh shit!
They finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Oh, they saved
He's
him.
right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in.
Did he
They're
just
putting
fall
them on
asleep?
Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security.
He has
They're
to
going
have
to
like a
destroy
micro
Social
earpiece in.
Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will.
Can we increase the volume, or is it max?
So he was right in the way he finished that sentence, and it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
I know he's not wrong. I
President
travel a
Trump.
lot, and I know that.
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned
They're
Roe
giving
v.
him
Wade.
breathing room.
This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue
Keeping
in
the
Idaho,
camera off him. Letting her
despite
take
that
the time
state's
to read.
restrictive ban.
Draw that shit out.
Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives.
Don't understand.
Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio,
it's a weird look on his face.
It was
right?
an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
We'll just keep the baby.
What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, that each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that
He went to the
she
funeral?
was murdered.
What is he talking about?
He's off the rails, man. He's off the fucking
Talk
rails.
about that.
I don't know how he can be off if he was never on.
Young women
Yeah, he started out like a robot. There's something there.
Yeah. So what happened to his
brothers and
drugs?
sisters?
He's gassed.
It's just ridiculous.
All the cognitive
They can do
ability.
nothing about it.
Like
And they try to
3
arrest them when they
questions.
cross state lines.
Thank you.
They
Young
saved him.
women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women.
Facts.
And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision.
The
In many
face
cases,
again.
It's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what
It reminds
everybody
me if
wanted,
you've ever seen like
including
dementia
the
patients.
founders, if they knew about this issue.
You know, when they get
which,
that
frankly,
weird
they
anger.
didn't. But
No.
they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it.
People
And
are
again,
already
this gives
clipping
it the
pictures
vote
of
the
Joe
people,
Biden, that
and
weird
that's
look
where
he's
they
doing.
wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on
I think
topic
that should be a
of
new
abortion,
strain of
7
marijuana.
states- I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions
The
on
Sleepy
how far
Joe.
into a pregnancy a woman can obtain.
Are they really
You need a
doing
little
another
strain.
Roe
You need a
versus
little-
Wade
you need a
question?
little- you need a
legal
little
limits
Biden,
on
Joe.
How late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy.
I support
my God,
Roe
look at
v.
him.
Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor.
Learn.
Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making those decisions. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's
If
what
they
you're
think
gonna
that
do.
doctors should be
And if
making
I'm
the
elected, I'm
decisions,
gonna
what the
restore
hell
everything
happened
we
during the last 4 years with COVID?
Exactly.
Yeah, what are they
In-
talking about?
Yeah,
the life
man.
of the
I
baby
don't care too
in the
much
ninth
what
month,
nerds who
and
spend
even
a lot of
after
time
birth,
in school and
because
do whatever
some
the government
states
says because
Democrat
they're
run,
afraid to do
take
different.
it after
That's
birth.
not-
Again,
I'm not-
the governor,
I'm not
former
pro that.
governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip
He
the
shit in his
baby out
pants?
of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby.
I think he just
Nobody
did.
wants that to happen.
Yeah.
He just shit his
Democrat or
pants.
Republican, nobody wants it to happen.
They cut away.
That is
It's not
simply
pants.
not
It's
true.
depends. It's depends.
Roe v. Wade does not provide for that.
I wonder if
That's
Depends
not
is
the
sponsoring
circumstance.
this
When a
event.
woman's life
I
is
don't know
in
who
danger, she's
makes
gonna
that. We need to
die.
buy some
That's the
stock
only
in that
circumstance
because they're
in which
making a
that can
solid
happen.
product. I
But
gotta be
we are
honest.
not for late
Yeah.
term abortion, period.
It's able to contain
Period,
his shit.
period.
He's probably not even
Roe
wearing
v. Wade,
pants.
You have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want,
Look at that
depending on
look.
the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think
Come on,
that's
man.
a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the
For
Republicans.
51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years. And it was
We
taken
have
away
70
because this
more
guy
minutes.
put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away.
They
What's he
were
going
on
to
a
do?
roll.
What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and
Oh,
border
they cut him
security.
off.
President
They cut him
Biden,
off.
a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern
She's trying to
border
get
on
his
your
attention.
watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this
You guys
crisis?
think this is going to go the
Because
distance?
we worked very hard to get a bipartisan
No,
agreement.
I'm
Not
starting to
only
wonder.
changed all of that.
Yeah.
It made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found
God, he
ourselves
looks
in a
crazy.
situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers,
Oh
putting them
my
in cages,
God.
making sure
Speaking
that
of children,
the families are
Trump really needs to
separated.
bring up his
That's
daughter.
not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now we're
Now
in a
that little
situation
girl's
where
raped every day.
40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of the sentence. We had the
I don't know what he said.
in the history of our country. But all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration killed an Al-Qaeda person come in, and his administration
What the fuck is he
killed
talking
three American soldiers.
Al-Qaeda's.
Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that
When was
no
this?
terrorist ever got through, but the idea
I missed this part.
we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no
Fan
data
fiction.
to support what he said.
Yes.
Once again,
Yeah,
he's
100%.
exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote.
Rumbles back
Does
up.
that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything.
Look at
not
Biden's
just
face.
border, on everything. He's the one that killed people. With
It's that of a dementia patient.
Hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days.
Yes.
One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people
It's only
out.
going to get worse. What Biden basically said is more people are raped by their brothers and sisters than by illegal aliens.
They're living in luxury hotels
you can't let them
in New
keep
York
saying
City and
shit
other
like that.
places.
Oh, and
Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA.
Is he passing out
He
again?
is the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie.
Oh,
Every
really?
single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it. Because
What the hell is he just saying?
Whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed his.
Wait, did he just say that military members are covered in insurance?
And they're burn pits. For veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living one next to one of those burn pits. Came back.
Was that Hunter?
Stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died.
Yeah, we
I
got
went to the
pictures of him
World War
shitting his
II
pants. He was
cemetery.
definitely there.
World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
63 more minutes of this. It's going to be great.
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia.
I don't
Russia,
look like
Russia
he's doing
was
so
made
well.
up,
Look at his face.
just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing.
You know me, I hate it when
you reference the laptop.
It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. It came from his son Hunter.
That's what they're doing.
It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers. So he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history.
I don't know about that.
And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war.
I think a better
that's what the VA is doing now.
I think a bigger duty to our veterans is make sure we don't go into any future wars.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, there you go.
Well said. Foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms
seems reasonable
to you?
If you can't defend your country, you're not
our
really
veterans
a country.
And our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that.
That's right. On this one, I work with the veterans. They do not like Biden.
And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Call out.
That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded
by Hamas
in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
Biden's going to equate Trump to Putin. Watch. Here we go.
So much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first.
He's folksy.
Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in.
What is he talking about?
5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
Yeah, shut the hell up.
President Trump, for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200
I can't get over this space,
That's
guys.
a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time
The memes write themselves.
Would you stop talking about me like that?
It was $60 billion.
Hey, Jake's here.
And I'm not
dude, the look on Biden's face,
I'm
bro.
only saying,
Yeah, seriously.
the money that we're spending on this war,
It's not.
and we shouldn't be
What the hell's he
spending.
doing?
It should have never happened. I will have that
drooling?
war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th.
This is the look that people with dementia make as they're trying to gather their thoughts.
So needlessly, so stupidly.
Yeah,
And
dude,
I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
What's going on?
You have a minute.
CNN had to get him off.
Is,
We're like, oh, we
Putin's
gotta
a war
get
criminal.
away from Biden's
He's
face.
killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when he
Not as long as
Ukraine?
Burisma has a
What do you
good
think happens to
person on their
Poland? What
board.
do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens
Right.
to those NATO countries?
As long as those
And so if
natural
you want a
gas
war,
payments keep
you ought
getting
to
made.
find out what he's going
Right.
to do.
Got to get
because
those experts that
fact
know
he
everything
does
about
what he
natural
says,
gas.
he walks away.
I heard this
By
guy
the
Hunter
way,
Biden's quite the
all that
insider.
money we
Oh,
give
yeah.
Ukraine,
Brilliant,
the
brilliant.
weapons we
Smartest
make
guy
here in
Joe
the
Biden
United
knows.
States, we give them
Oh,
the weapons,
yeah.
not the money at this point.
Hey, they ever find out whose
And
cocaine
and
that
our
was in the
NATO
White House?
allies have produced as
Yeah, it
much
was Hunter's. No,
food
no,
for
no.
Ukraine
It was
as
Joe's.
That's why we're strong.
Guys,
I thought it was
Thank you.
Hunter's
Moving
till
on
this
to the Middle
afternoon.
East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel,
said we're getting
killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans.
crazy.
Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Okay.
President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to
I
resolve
wish we had Ian
this
Carroll for this
conflict,
one.
but so far, Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use
Look at his
to get
face,
Hamas
dude.
and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
That's at least one.
Number
By,
one,
by Hamas, do they mean the
everyone
CIA?
from the
Isn't Hamas and the
United
CIA the
Nations
same thing?
Security
No, you mean
Council,
Mossad.
straight through to the G7,
Yes.
to the Israelis, and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward.
Okay.
Which has 3 stages to it.
Okay.
The first stage is
Number one.
trade the hostages for a ceasefire.
Okay.
Second phase is a
Yeah.
ceasefire.
Homeless guy
with
that lives under
additional
my river.
conditions.
It lives under the
third
bridge down by
phase
the
is
river by my house.
No, the end of the
And
war.
when he's
The
tweaking
only
good
one
and
who wants
hard,
the war to continue
you
is
walk in the
Hamas.
gas station, that's the
Number one.
exact
They're
look
the
he
only
gives
ones
you.
standing out. We're still pushing hard
Sad.
to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened
Shit.
in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing
The fact they
Israel
asked
all the
for them
weapons
is
they need and when they
something
need
that should
them.
be
And
addressed.
by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown ballistic missile attack
Can't
on
even
Israel.
fucking
But I also
say it.
gave him
No
billions
one's
of
hurt.
dollars.
No,
Billions
one
of
Israeli
dollars.
was accidentally killed,
Billions of dollars.
and it just stopped. It
Trillions.
saved Israel.
Quadrillions.
Anytime he ever
Producer,
claims credit for
the
anything,
support
it always
for
ends
Israel
up
of
coming
anyone
back
in
and
the
biting
world.
him in the ass
And
because
so
people
that's-
do the
they're two
research
different
and they're like,
things.
the fuck is he
Hamas
talking
cannot
about?
be allowed to be continued. We can send our experts.
I'm surprised he's even carrying a pen.
How they can get Hamas like we did Bin Laden. You don't have to do it.
There's a good
And by
point
the
on
way,
someone
that's
made, Kim.com
greatly
made on
weakened.
X.
Greatly weakened, and they
The
should be.
Democrats spent
Should be
7 days to
eliminated.
prepare Biden
But
for this
you've got to
debate.
be
And
careful
Biden just
for
said
what
Putin
using
wants to
certain
attack
weapons
Belarus.
among population centers.
The
Go back
biggest
to
ally
Ukraine
of
for 1 second.
Russia.
We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100
They
billion,
immediately
and
moved
more
away
than
from
that,
Biden as he's
less
like,
than us.
He's losing it.
Why
man.
doesn't he call them? So you got to put up your money like I did with NATO. I
Look at
got
that
them to
look.
put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen.
Weird.
They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was
reality
paid by us.
again?
He didn't do that. He's getting all. You
Not a
got to
good
ask
one.
these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our
I'm already sold, man. Stop selling me on the guy.
There may be a big ocean, but
I know, right? Yeah, I want to get out of NATO.
You just keep making it more enticing. He does he?
Putin continue to go into NATO. We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places.
So
what happens then? He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind
both countries are known for their military
prowess. Serious threat to the whole world peace.
Hey.
No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this. I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world.
I mean, I'm going to go out.
All
No,
over
ever.
the world, we were respected.
Yeah, not ever. It's good.
And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
That was a good pivot.
My question was,
great.
what do
He's
you
just
say
taking
to
it
those
off the rails.
who
He
believe
never
that
did
you
answer about
violated
January
your
6th, which is good because I think it was all the Democrats.
On January 6th, 2021,
they're setting him up with questions because Biden obviously has pre-planned responses.
I said
so long as he
peacefully and
keeps taking it off the
patriotically.
rails,
And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it.
National Guard.
And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one.
What?
I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done.
Listen, man, you already sold me on the guy.
He says he wants to commute 2 sentences and say that
the deal's closed.
He went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many
Tell us why we like him.
Scores
I know,
including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is,
I'm sold. I'm here. I'm getting the ring.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people.
Amen.
When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately.
Chad or something?
Chaz Chop.
This whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically 2 horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at.
I told you, I'm sold.
That's simply because Joe Biden isn't sane enough to stand trial.
I know, right?
Isn't that what the doctor said? He did some stuff, but he's too feeble to stand trial.
Deserves to be convicted.
Exactly.
The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first 2 debates we had first time around,
I think the bigger question is,
denounce the Proud Boy.
There's a lot of people in Congress and a lot of people in the bureaucracy that killed 1,100,000 Americans through bad responses, but yet they're not criminals.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be successful to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. is simply wrong. No president.
Isn't that what Biden's doing?
It's exactly what Biden's doing.
Like that before.
Absolutely.
It's what the select committee's doing.
Crimes
People
you
who,
are still
like they want to
charged with.
expand the
Think of all the
powers to
civil
anyone
penalties
who is
you
on
have. How many
grounds or attended
billions of
January
dollars do you owe in civil penalties?
It's insane.
For molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night.
Listen, I'm voting for the guy. Relax.
Well, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Alec?
Your minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star. Number one.
Would not.
Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that you could never think you hear any president say,
I feel like that was a
that
threat.
I'm going to seek retribution.
Yeah.
Right?
You ever hear any
I felt
president
like that was
say
a threat.
that I thought Hitler had some good ideas?
Very much
What
so.
got me involved to run the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq.
In Iraq?
I said I wasn't going to run.
Yeah, see, there he goes. There he goes, lying again.
People
Gotta
coming
keep
out of
milking
the
that
woods
dead
carrying
kid,
swastikas
Joe. Like a
on
true politician.
torches and singing the same anti-Semitic
Guide
choir
Iraq again,
they
guys.
sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said,
What is her name?
What do you think of those people?
Riley.
People, the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas? They're fine people. This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally
Guy's an idiot.
wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency
He
in
just
the
needs to
history of our
directly
country.
call him out as
We shouldn't be
mentally
having a
unfit.
debate about it. There's nothing to debate.
Directly.
He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be
already
right back
sold
with
me
more
on
from
him,
the
man.
CNN.
Yeah, you're already sold, bro. We don't want you. We want Trump. We like the fact that all these
Nice.
rhinos
We
are
get
not
a
gonna
little
support him.
reprieve.
Yeah.
So you say Pence doesn't like him?
Yeah, then I think he's all right.
Yeah, I want to fire off a few comments here. I wrote some notes here. We can talk about some of them. First of all, I think the big one was Trump talking about January 6th versus the BLM riots versus the Chaz Chop Zone in Seattle. I mean, I think it's just so disproportionate in terms of the reaction. And Trump and Biden was trying to use that to claim that like Trump was advocating for violence, but nobody was killed on January 6th except for Ashley Babbitt. She was the only person who was killed. And we've got Jake Chansley right here. Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Hey, Jake.
Oh, no, and Rosalind Boylan. There's actually like two others actually.
Oh yeah, she was like stomped.
All of them were protesters, and the thing is that the media lied to everybody and said that 4 police officers were killed, but none of that was true. So, like, I thought he did a great job of using that question to kind of pivot and point out all this other lunacy, as opposed to absorbing it and trying to justify what they are trying to get him to justify.
Yeah.
He took that question and the premise and then he flipped it on its head and he put it back on them, which I think, look, I'm not for not answering questions. What I'm for is not answering bullshit questions. And that's what he just did.
Yeah. Exactly.
But what do you guys overall think though about Biden's performance right now? I mean, are they letting him burn at the stake? And that's what it appears to be happening right now.
It looks
he
like
started quick, but then he started quick and then he started falling apart. It's like clearly he had the first 2 minutes like rehearsed, ready to go. He tried to get as much as he could.
Yeah, he had like a little speech going, and he already knew what the question was going to be before they even asked him.
Yeah,
he's all coked up and on Adderall, man. I'm telling you.
I think he has an earpiece. He keeps turning that head, looking like he's listening to something.
Absolutely.
And another quick thing I took down here, I want to throw a couple more things while we have a break here. The Afghanistan, Trump hammering Biden on Afghanistan, I thought was really big because Afghanistan was a disaster of a pullout, right? I mean, a bunch of people ended up dying, I think. I mean, it was not good. We left a bunch of people behind, weapons.
And by the way, the Biden pullout of Afghanistan, if you look at how many weapons, how much equipment that was actually left in Afghanistan, besides the 13 Marines, I believe, that died in that pullout, what we have to understand is the CIA's heavy involvement of funding ISIS, ISIL, ISIS-K, and other extremist Islamic regimes for a very long time. And in my opinion, the pullout was an intentional pullout in the terms of heavily funding, heavily arming also the Taliban. I mean, a week after they left, the Taliban was rolling around in helicopters, many of which they crashed, but they were still filming a lot of this, and they were like, "Check this out!"
Yeah, and all of them, they were on the plane on the outside trying to get out of there.
Yeah,
remember?
It's nuts, man. I mean, and so I think we heavily funded. I think we did that intentionally. We don't just leave that amount of shit over there and just out of nowhere. And the same reason why we also don't accidentally fund Iran, which then funds all the terrorist groups in the Middle East.
And don't forget that we funded them, and not even a week later, I think is when the terrorist attacks happened in Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. It was about 4 weeks later, but yeah, very close.
Well, and let's not forget, you guys, that when Trump was in office, there were no new wars.
No, none.
Okay, so the military-industrial complex, these contractors, they make their money based on the U.S. going to freaking war.
Yeah.
The gasoline, hydraulic fluid, grease, you've got firearms, gunpowder, you name it, metal, like all of it. All that money from the raw resources and the manufacturers converting these things into the war machine gears. I mean, it's all there. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. No, you're right.
And Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses.
He's not inspiring confidence at all.
The impact on the choice.
This is the second half. Biden's falling apart here, guys.
Relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. Yeah, we're going to make sure we provide for childcare costs. Because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly.
In other words, you didn't answer the question. Try again.
That any Black family, first-time home buyer should get a
throwing you softballs here, Joe. Come on now.
First home, so they can get started.
You got to appeal to your voter base, man.
All those Black families and those Black individuals.
We put it on the tee, Joe. Just swing. Loans, okay? They'll hit something.
That if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do
they're
with
speaking in his ear.
If they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after
Trump
10
just
years.
needs to call out
Millions
his
have benefited from that.
mumbling, bumbling, stumbling idiocy. It's just unfit.
Thank you, President Trump.
Yeah. And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled, and tripled, and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now. And it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs. And you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you.
You know who's really loving Joe's performance tonight?
There was no
Michelle
inflation
Obama and Gavin
when
Newsom.
I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in rural communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance.
Billions of
we
jobs.
have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where
when you shut everything down, when not even let us go to a restaurant?
We put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and.
Dude, he was the one that was talking about defunding the police.
There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his
and dumb people
tremendous mouth.
Including my mom.
Handle the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history. Communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the Black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them, and they've taken great offense at it. And now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform, and for the historically Black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded.
Babylon Bee,
and the opportunity zones.
Biden invents new language
Tim,
on
as
live
you know,
TV.
Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator
hilarious.
from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are Blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers.
He's being torn apart in real time.
Maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever. The best numbers.
You're saying the fact checkers are turning him a new
much
ass?
of the Black population.
Yeah, I mean, his whole spiel about how no U.S. soldiers were killed during his presidency.
He's also done a horrible
Remember
job
the one
for
where he was at when the
Hispanics.
soldiers were
But
coming
wait till
back
you
and he
see
checked
these
his watch to
millions of
see what the
people
time was so
pouring
when he could
into our
leave.
country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's
Oh,
already
yeah.
started, and you
Yep.
haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Oh my
So
God.
I want absolutely
crisis?
immaculate
We gotta
clean
talk
water,
about this on the break.
and I want
The climate
absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever,
Okay, water.
and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And
They're
yet,
just trying to give Biden
during
more
my
time
4
to recover.
years, I had the best environmental numbers
You're right.
ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. No idea.
I believe it.
Anything
No,
he
I
said is
totally
true.
believe him.
I
He doesn't
passed
know.
the most extensive
Where
climate
are
change legislation in history. In history, we find ourselves. And by the way, Black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic Black universities and colleges, because they don't have
For
they don't have the kind of
If you don't vote
contributors
for me,
that
you
they
ain't
have
Black.
to build these laboratories and the like. Any Black
Or
student is
climate
capable
concern.
in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea
I
that
feel like if
he
we
is
think about what he just said,
claiming
it's a little
to
racist.
have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately
Clear
joined
your
it.
throat,
Because
please.
if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, where there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He must undo all that I've done.
By the way,
Paris
you guys,
Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia.
you guys remember when they actually said that climate change was based on racism?
Did it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it, and it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence. We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything?
That's our
if we're
president.
not able to, the United States can't get us under
That's
control.
our president.
One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs,
God, he looks
one
feeble.
company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
Stop talking.
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older
That wasn't
Americans,
awkward.
Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they
ridiculous.
get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that
inflation is destroying Social Security.
Millionaires pay 1%. 1%.
Absolutely.
So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
So what he's saying is everyone who makes
to be able
less
to
still has to pay
program for
more.
life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican Caucus,
I don't know. You guys, but Biden swaying me on this debate.
Want to cut
I think I'm in his camp now.
The idea that
very convinced, he has a lot of passion. He's obviously speaking the
ridiculous.
truth. Trump's obviously a terrible person. I mean, look at that face.
Has greater health care coverage today than ever before.
It's not creepy.
And on the ACA, as I said,
unnerving,
in a circumstance
frail
where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where I talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen that he can look you in the face.
Brutal.
So many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid.
Yep.
They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street and these people are living in luxury hotels.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yep.
And it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country.
That's a good point.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions of way he talks about
the Border Patrol Union just came out to clarify, to be clear, we never have, never will endorse Biden.
We have the fastest growing economy in the world.
I love it.
The reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way,
there's so much fake bullshit news from this guy.
Presidential scholars voted
Horrible.
him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of childcare, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of childcare in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of childcare for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make childcare more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people.
Crucifying him.
Voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
How many of
Thank
you
you,
guys are
President
going
Trump.
to vote for Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world.
He's voting for Biden
The
here.
United States of America.
I mean,
There's nothing beyond
I like to see
We're the
things
finest
burn.
military in the history of the world.
You know,
The
I
finest in the
might
history of the
just
world. No one thinks we're weak.
car wreck,
No
house
one
fire. I
wants to
slow
screw
down. I
around
see
with
what's
us.
going on.
Nobody. Number one.
There's some entertainment.
Number
in that.
two, the idea that we're
I'm not
talking
sure,
about
honestly,
worst
switching
presidents.
is
I
going to
wasn't
change too
joking.
much.
Look it up.
The
Go
path
online.
we're on is
159
pretty
or
bad.
58. Don't hold me to
I
the
don't
exact
know. I
number.
think we're way better off.
Presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted.
It's not a
The
fact.
idea that he is knowing.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not what a fact is.
Child
It's
not
an
at all what a
opinion.
fact is.
He did for virtually
Fucking
nothing
moron.
to child care. We should significantly increase the
opinion.
child care
Opinion
tax
fact.
credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President
childcare
Biden.
facilities.
President Trump, the
Trump is our
question was
best
about
bet to
what
keep
would you
the
do to
ship
make
going
childcare more
forward and to
affordable
keep
for
it
the
right.
president?
Just so you
Absolutely.
understand, we have polling,
Would
we
you
have
guys
other
go?
things.
Would you guys
that
go with
they
Michelle
rate him the
Obama?
worst because what he's done is so
I
bad.
wouldn't.
Big
And
Mike.
they rate me. I'll show you. I will show you.
Big
And
Mike.
they rate me one of the best.
Mike.
Okay. And
Mike.
if I'm given another 4 years,
Yeah, I saw
will
that
be
dance
the
on the
best. I
Ellen
think
show.
I'll be the best.
Big Mike for a reason.
Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire.
God, he looks
so
stupid. Look at his
everybody,
face.
including the two of you, are going to pay
That's
4 to
He's
5
just
times.
wandering.
Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they
Every
were
time he
bringing
looks down at
money
his
back
freaking
into our
papers, you
country.
can see that on his
The
head he
worst
has more
president in
liver
history
spots
by
than
far, and
Dalmatian
everybody
dots.
knows it.
President Biden?
Well,
That's a
the
good
fact
one.
of the matter is
That's a
that
good
he's dead wrong about. He's increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference.
What does inflation cost us?
And all the things that were important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally
I'm sold,
bankrupt
bro.
the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China.
Oh my
since
God.
2010.
Thank you,
We're at the
President
highest.
Biden.
We lost
Thank you, President Biden.
Thank you, Biden.
Let's
Shut the hell
discuss
up,
an
Biden.
epidemic impacting
Let's go.
millions of
Stop talking, Biden.
Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term,
Oh my God.
the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up.
After this.
Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up,
I will close the border.
We now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way.
People get treatment.
And
right?
then
like
we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border were, it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways, but the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery to detect fentanyl. Those big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal.
He just said
more fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically."
Oh, shit.
He never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about
what he just said.
Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Some kind of
because this does pertain to it.
Fentanyl prices.
He ended remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, the Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion.
I think they're going to use this debate.
I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Yep.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns
they still have
voters
enough time to
about
put someone
each
else
of you.
in and build them up. And
President
get them going.
Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term.
Isn't the Democrat National Convention coming up?
About your capability to handle the toughest job in the world.
That's why they've done this so
well
early.
into your 80s.
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized.
I hope they keep Biden
in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected. In the United States.
This is hilarious.
And now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private
billions of dollars
in enterprises. We are growing.
Okay.
By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went.
Did he just blame microchip manufacturing overseas on Trump?
Billions of dollars here in the United States.
He did.
And guess what?
How the hell's
those fabs they call them to build these chips. Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans.
They started that under Trump when they were building those facilities.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I want to hear more about the chips.
The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before.
We are failing.
We're the envy of the world.
We're a
Name
banana
me
republic.
A single major country president wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world.
We're pretty good at getting trainees to read books to kids at public libraries.
All of our allies.
Sure.
And our
we got that. We got the market cornered on
call
that.
us up to, from Kim Jong-un, we sent love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Did he say he sends him
Former
love
President
letters?
Trump to follow up.
Did he say love letters? Are you kidding me? Love letters?
What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know.
Aced them.
Made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 225 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is. Take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a a contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president.
We are handicapped.
Down to a 6. And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
I'm about to die.
Mike can walk out on stage.
You can't even lift your own chair from the beach.
I've seen you swing. I know you.
I love watching him fall off that bicycle.
President Trump, we're going to turn.
Let's not act like children.
To a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility,
we got one of them here,
not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent. because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
And that's why they want to keep him.
World War III.
Yep. That's exactly why they want to keep him.
Follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all.
Terrible policy. It's ridiculous.
The idea.
It's the dumbest thing I think he
I
said.
can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because
Me?
we are a
Well, he has
powerful
stolen a
nation.
lot
It's
of money.
because
But
of
he's
the
probably
people.
right. Leaders
Not
of the
least
world.
because of the American people.
Unbelievable
They're
the amount
capable of anything, and
money
they
he's
step up
laundered
when
out of
needed.
Ukraine.
And right now,
That's probably
we're
true.
needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border.
What the hell are you talking
Then you
about,
have a
man?
war.
What the hell is he talking
President
about?
Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up.
What the hell is he talking about? I just wanted to add that in there.
Accept the results of this election, regardless of
If Russia takes over Ukraine,
Just
then
to
they're
finish
going to
what
after
he said,
Poland.
if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers.
I like that he mocks him while he's on the
It's
stage.
so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no?
He already said yes.
If it's a fair and legal and good
if it's a fair
election,
election.
absolutely.
Reality.
I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week.
Damn what anybody
But
says. It is
I will
100% true.
absolutely. There's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to
They're gonna
run
use this clip.
until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. Whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said
One
any
thing
of
we
your
know
claims
about
had
Biden,
any
he's a
merit,
master
state or local.
Baiter.
None. But you continue to promote
He is
this
a baiter.
lie. about
Yeah, just
somehow
look at
there's all this
Ash, his daughter's
misrepresentation,
diary.
all this stealing.
Yeah.
There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more
Okay.
CNN presidential debate.
I'm telling you, I think that is the dumbest couple of words I've heard come out of a president in
Oh my God.
my lifetime.
Was that the end of it?
Wait, yeah. Well, no, it's not
a
the
low
end.
break.
No, it's a break. Jake, I got to get to you for a second. Jake, when they're talking about January 6th in particular, obviously Jake Hensley Changeley, QAnon Shaman, you were kind of the face of January 6th.
For a second.
And then Tucker used a lot of your videos where you're kind of being led around the Capitol building
carpet.
On the red carpet, whatever.
Like, come this way.
But
do this.
But the police are kind of leading you around. How much violence did you see? I mean, was there a lot of violence there? And how much do you think Trump contributed to the violence? And obviously, since we have you here in the debate and they've asked these January 6th questions, what is your thought process on, number one, why was police leading you around, as Tucker Carlson pointed out? And do you think Trump, it was his position, or do you think he actually tried to stop whatever happened on January 6th? And go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, like he said, he tried to get the National Guard there. They didn't allow the National Guard to be there. Both Mayor Bowser and Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi did not allow the National Guard to be present. It was their doing. They wanted the chaos. They wanted to use it for political reasons. So there's that. In that regard, Trump, no, he had no hand in it whatsoever. He tried to help make sure it didn't happen. They wanted it to happen, so they made sure that it did. But then there's also like the whole thing with Trump being at the Ellipse, giving a speech as people were walking over to the Capitol. Before Trump even got off stage, from what I understand, things already started to get bad because they were shooting tear gas and concussion grenades into the crowd. They were shooting rubber bullets in the crowd. So that kind of provoked people in the first place. That's why things got out of hand so fast. In my experience, that's what happened, is that the crowd was provoked. And that was when all hell broke loose, when rubber bullets, tear gas, and concussion grenades were thrown and shot into the peaceful crowd.
And now, Jake, by the way, why were you led around the Capitol?
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Now, the kind of stuff that took place outside of the building did not take place inside. The kind of violence and clashing with police that took place outside did not take place inside. So the mockingbirds in the media had everything that they needed outside the building, where it shows people clashing with police and there being violence and chaos. But inside the building, they didn't have anything like that. So they chose to use yours truly's image as a way of creating the illusion that what happened outside also happened inside, that there was all this chaos outside the building. And then look, they got this crazy guy in horns and face paint inside the building, and he's screaming, look at that. Oh, aren't you afraid? Insurrection. Now, if the footage had come out of me being escorted around the building because I offered to help the police, I saw there were people in the Senate, and I came up to them and said, hey, there's people down there. If you want, I can help you to like stop vandalism, violence, and theft and help you clear the room. And they were like, yeah, come on, let's go. So we started walking from locked door to locked door to see if we could get into the Senate. And that's how I got into the Senate. That's why when you see that video of me coming into the Senate chamber and I'm like, hey, and then the cop is right behind me, it's because he held the freaking door for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Well, we saw it in many of the videos where it is the red carpet. They open the doors like, you need to go this way. And it was like everyone was just walking on this red carpet.
All right, guys, we're going back to the debate. And by the way, guys, everybody that is watching this, we're gonna have a showdown at the end of this. We're gonna talk about everything. So make sure you guys share this stream. And here we go. Here is back to the debate of a senile man and a guy that seems to be destroying him concurrently right now. Here you go. Got to get the volume. There we go.
Fair. The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare.
Can't even close it out.
For the ability for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter what how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That
the longer they let him talk, the worse it gets.
So the lead title on Drudge Report is Operation Replace Biden, then scramble with 130 days to go.
To every
debate catastrophe.
All that's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have childcare. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for childcare. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax, but he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever.
He gave them the money.
Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get, when you're terminally ill, now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett. Now on CNN.
They're not even going to let him have they're not going to even let him close anything.
That was the closing. Yeah, that was it.
No, that's not a closing. I don't think so. Is
no,
it?
that is it.
Closing, and Biden didn't even close anything.
Wow.
Nah, he just ran.
That was it. I don't think we need to watch their.
Yeah, he was just like whispering and.
Yeah, and why don't you like?
What the hell's going on right now? Was that literally the end?
Yeah, that was it.
The president and former president making their way off the CNN debate stage. First lady has come out. Former President Trump walking off the stage. The first debate of the 2024 campaign and the earliest presidential debate ever now in the books and in front of the voters. Tonight, along with Aaron Burnett, the first word on what
Trump
those
just
voters
walked off.
Make of it from our political professionals.
Are they guiding him?
And swing state focus
down the
group.
stairs.
We'll be talking to surrogates, including Vice President Harris, getting fact checks from Daniel Dale and new.
Hey, by the way, they're going to be talking to surrogates and Vice President.
Scott Jennings,
I guess the Vice
President, David Urban, Van Jones, Alyssa Farr Griffin, and
Trump didn't even shake the hands of the moderators. He just left.
He just walked.
Yeah, because he doesn't even know where he is right now.
Like, fuck Big Tapper.
Holy crap! I cannot believe this.
All right, listen. So we're going to monitor this as CNN covers this. But listen, let's open this up. We got to start with a couple things. Holy shit! First of all, what was you guys? And let's go one at a time.
You guys.
What was you guys? Thoughts on Joe Biden's performance tonight? Because listen, I've seen a couple of comments, and listen, we have almost 16,000 people in here right now, watching this live. What I'm saying is I've seen a couple of people actually that are kind of pro Biden, which is, you know, if you look at this performance, what just happened tonight in this debate, how can anyone be pro Biden unless you are just 100% or 500%?
Because I was hoping my mom is watching this because I'm hoping my mom understands because she only watches CNN and all those, news organizations. And so she is like, all about Biden and hates Trump.
Well, so I can answer that question because, like, did you guys see the Tucker Carlson?
Hold on, Ashton. You said you're not necessarily for Trump or Biden. What did you take from this debate from your perspective?
Well, first thing I wanted to respond was like, how can people support Biden? If you guys watched there's some clips going viral from Tucker Carlson in Australia the other day, and they just straight up ask him, they claim, they're talking to him and they claim that he's all about white replacement theory and all this stuff that he's never advocated for. Those are the types of people that support Biden, the people that believe whatever the media tells you at face value. They don't listen to the people what they literally tell you. Tucker Carlson says, you can just take me at my word. I'm right here in front of you. And I can tell you that's not what I believe. And that they attribute quotes to them in general. Those are the people in general, I think, that support Biden. I'm not a big Biden supporter. I think that the biggest takeaways for me from that debate were the mandates. Trump hammered Biden on the mandates, the COVID vaccine mandates. He didn't even mention that Biden tried to push it through OSHA. Guys, OSHA is safety, workplace safety protocols. It's not meant for medical, giving people medications and things like that. It's completely outside the realm of OSHA. It ended up getting shot down, rightfully so. But Biden tried to push that through. And then the other big thing I think was on a lot of the war stuff in general. I thought that Biden kind of advocated for the idea of going to World War III because we just can't let Russia win, which reminded me of the meme that I posted about, Mommy, I don't want to go to war. And then it was, honey, quit being selfish. I don't like the president of Russia. Like that little childhood kind of crap like that. We're talking about war. We should be taking it more seriously than we have to stop them. I don't believe at all that Putin wants to take over Poland and all of Ukraine. I think he wants exactly what he said, which is the ethnic Russian areas of Ukraine. And I think he wants Ukraine to not join NATO because that's putting our weapons on their border. So those are the biggest takeaways for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I agree, Ashton. Dave, what do you think? What do you think? How did Biden do? And then also specifically, how did Trump do? Did he command the stage tonight? And is this going to be a turning point for Trump in mainstream media? How is mainstream media going to, how are they going to recover from this? And was this intentional, right? You remember Ian Carroll? He came on tonight.
Yeah.
And Nathan, I know Nathan, I talked to Nathan yesterday. I said, Nathan, I think, because Nathan said, I want your opinion. And I told Nathan, I said, I think they're going to let him burn. This is what I think they're going to do on live television. And I think they did that. What is your thoughts, Dave?
One, hello
they're doing
to people watching. Say hello to everyone watching. I'm L. Dave from Alien Addict Podcast. I'm a co-host there. And what do I think? I think we saw a feeble, senile old man.
Yeah.
Who's on an unbelievable amount of drugs, stumble through with people in his earpiece. You saw the chat moderators, if you were watching and paying attention like we were, obviously giving him more time to be able to speak. This is the guy who's the president of the United States. This is the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the world. This is a terrifying thing. It's one thing for us to be tongue-in-cheek.
I think you're giving him more credit.
Yeah, maybe. For us to be, about his cognitive decline, but it's obvious right there, right? This isn't good. I think most people, I don't think this sways anything. I think the only purpose of this debate being held this early is so that they can bring in another candidate. I would bet dollars to, I don't know what currency is really worth anything right now. I should probably stop there.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Ethereum
articles. There you go. The news articles are already written up.
Yeah,
the news articles are already written up. They're going to get run tomorrow. They already have their candidates set. The strangest thing to me was the moderators didn't get really active other than to buy them time to talk, which strikes a bizarre chord. To me, that means they've been told. All right, we give him the time to talk, let him do his thing. We're letting Biden burn himself out. That way, when the Democratic National Convention comes in, we can bring in someone else. We have 130 days to build them up and get them going. That's the tactic. And then when they do that and they bring in someone younger, they're going to say, listen, we had to get rid of Biden because his cognitive issues. You all saw it. Trump's the same age. You can't let him and his cognitive issues. They're going to be able to use the same mold they used to get rid of Biden against Trump during the election.
Yeah, I agree.
They're framing that.
Dave, I 100%
but
agree with that.
Did you guys think that Trump was pretty cognitive?
Well,
100%. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think he absolutely was.
I don't know about 100%, but many, many more times than Biden was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Jake, what is your thoughts based on this debate? Obviously, it talked a lot about January 6th, and obviously you have some connection to January 6th. Well, but what is your thoughts in general? Are you still a Trump supporter? How did you feel after, obviously, you spent some time in prison because of January 6th? But more specifically, who is the right man to lead this country forward from here on out? And then second question, if they replace Biden, because it appears, in my opinion, that they wanted to burn him at the stake tonight. I was wondering, are you going to have an amazing game plan to where you bring out this guy, you have an amazing plan, you dope him up on all these drugs, and he's going to do somewhat decent, right? I think he completely failed tonight. But more specifically, what happens even if they bring in someone else like Michelle Obama? Who wins that?
Sorry. Oh, I don't hear Jake.
Yeah, I don't hear you, Jake.
Muted.
Oh, wait, hold on. Jake, go ahead.
You're still muted, buddy.
All right, you're good.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yay.
I got Verizon.
All right. So let's start with the first question. Who's the person to lead us into the future from here on out? Trump only has 4 years. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's Trump. I think it's Jake.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. If I could get a bigger mic, there might be a lot more people with an opinion. But I think that we need somebody that's younger. I think Trump is the best candidate that we have right now. But we need somebody that's younger, that's educated, articulate, that cannot be compartmentalized, somebody that has a wide range of knowledge and understanding in varying aspects and elements of not just statecraft, but also psychology, behavior, social systems, economics, all sorts of stuff, right?
Please stop talking about yourself, Jake.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that the person that really that Biden has shown himself to be is not what anybody needs, but is actually the problem that everybody sees. It's the problem that everybody's like, no, this is everything that's wrong with DC. If you could epitomize a person that is everything that's wrong with DC, it would be Biden. Now, when it comes to the debate tonight, I think part of the issue that we have with not just obviously CNN and the way that they were able to shut off people's mics, they were forcing these people to respond in 2 minutes. You're talking about geopolitics and socioeconomics. Do you really think you're going to be able to boil down the world and all its nuances in 2-minute answers? The lack of education and lack of access to real information is the real problem we have in this country. So the next leader that's going to move us forward is going to be somebody that can actually educate the American people about all these nuanced issues and lead them forward in a way that unites the country as opposed to dividing it on bullshit partisan politics. And also, when it comes to who's not going to be involved, who isn't going to be leading us forward, it's people like Joe Biden that have been in office for 50 years, 30 years, 40 years, and have got us into this mess in the first place. So the first answer is I've just given it. The second question, I totally forgot what it was.
No, so basically what I was saying is, I mean, if they bring in Michelle Obama, how does it affect Trump?
Dude, look, here's the thing. The Democrats don't have a deep bench at all. And the thing is neither do the Republicans really. And I only say that because
Vivek or whatever his name is.
No, he's not going to be vice president though.
Who? Vivek? Oh, he's no. He's a snake, bro. I'm telling you, Vivek is not the answer at all. I mean, the man literally plagiarized Obama. He made his millions by doing like pump and dump with the big pharma. Okay. Michelle Obama certainly doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. All right. There's no way. And if they do, and they got what, Cackling Kamala and Big Mike as their ticket, try it. Please try it. Let's see how that goes.
No, I agree. I agree. I agree. Go ahead, sure.
I want to ask you, who do you think would be the best vice president for Trump then?
Me, but I doubt that'll happen. I don't, the thing is to be honest with you, I don't see anybody on the political stage of political theater that would actually be a qualified vice president. Because the thing is, you got to have somebody that the deep state fears just as much as they fear Trump. So that will keep Trump safe. They don't want to have to get rid of Trump just to have this new VP step in. And if the new VP is younger, sharper, or at least as sharp and as feared with as big of balls as Trump, they're not going to want to get rid of Trump. They're going to want to keep him where he's at. And then that VP will end up becoming the president or coming to run for president in 2028. And then in 2032, we need a 12-year plan here. We got to start thinking decades or centuries ahead. Otherwise, we're not going to make it out.
Yeah,
absolutely. So who would be the best vice president?
That's a good question.
I already told you.
I know you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sticking to my guns on that. Look, I'll put it this way. Ted Cruz, how long has he been in DC and how rich is he? Jim Jordan, how long has he been in DC and how rich is he? Okay. JD Vance, how many of these people have been in DC for long periods of time, and how much money are they worth right now?
Yeah.
All right. How many connections have they made in DC already? People like Ramaswamy or people like Nikki Haley or Ron DeFascist. Where were these people without Trump?
But what about the older guy? The older guy. Who's the older guy that's been on there that they thought?
Ben Carson?
No, not Ben Carson, the other guy.
I have no idea. Sherry's saying the older guy, but we don't know who the hell she's talking about.
Huge, big nose.
It's going to be Rubio, guys. I'm telling you, Marco Rubio. Everybody hates it, but it's going to be Rubio.
You think Rubio? You think Rubio, Ashton?
Yeah, because it helps him with the Hispanic voters and Latino voters, and because Rubio is in the Senate Intelligence Committee. So you got to realize that like a lot of this is just a big game, right? Trump and Biden, even in a lot of the questions, both of them answered. Like they're answering. Like the climate change one, like even Trump is like, oh, we're going to use all the power, all the different types of power that are out there. You know, it's like, well, we have free energy. We have 0 point energy that we could be utilizing. Like everybody who's in office is controlled. And so who do you pick when you're in control? You pick somebody else that's controlled, which is Marco Rubio, right? Like that's my opinion. Is that who it's going to end up being, but who knows?
All right.
Honestly, Ashton, it wouldn't surprise me. But the thing is that at the end of the day, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And I think that we are practicing insanity as a society. I think we have a bit of Stockholm syndrome going on here. And I think that the only way that we're going to see the kind of change that you and I would like to see for the economy, for humanity, free energy and, transforming from this pollutive parasitic system that's based in debt and war into something much more beautiful is if and when we are able to change the dialogue. And that's why the debates are the way that they are. In Abraham Lincoln's day, they did 4-hour, 8-hour debates, bro, where the candidates were able to talk for 4 hours about what they were going to do, what their opinions were, what their policies were. We get little 2 to 2.5, maybe 1 hour little clips on a network that boils things down to 2-minute talking points. That's why we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to break that wheel.
I agree. And guys, I want to touch on another topic because look, we have a lot of people in here right now. I mean, we have a lot of live watchers right now. By the way, thank all of you guys for watching us. I hope that you all follow Jake Angeli Chansley, Alien Addict, and Dave Conspiracy Mothership. I think they do an amazing job at Alien Addict, and they don't just talk about aliens; they talk about everything. I hope you guys go follow them. Obviously, Ashton is probably literally going to be like the next freaking Tesla. I think. I mean, what Ashton's doing right now is insane. And look, there's a lot of backlash. Anytime you're on the cusp of a something so progressive, something free energy, something all of these things. People are going to hate the shit out of you. And we proudly were the first podcast to have Ashton on. I'm so proud of that.
We proudly stand behind Ashton.
And I love Ashton so much. And I love Jake and I love Dave. Yep. These guys right here are family. And look, we're creating a family here, right? We're creating a family for sure. Let me ask everybody this question. What do you guys think about climate change? And I want to preface it with this fact. Since the 1930s, climate change has been manipulated. The numbers have been manipulated over the years, literally since the 1930s. They have exaggerated numbers since the 1930s. And if you look at actually what climate change is contributed by human beings, that's about 3% of carbon emissions is actually contributed from human beings. If you look at cyclonic cycles or whatever they call those, we've probably been, at the very least, we can maybe prove 7 cycles of civilizations potentially that have happened on this earth to where there have been 7 cycles of climate change. So 7 cycles of pole shifts. And
meaning that our earth has started over.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Earth starts over, it recycles itself. And so what the government is doing, though, when they talk about climate change, and in particular, when CNN asked Trump, what are you going to do about climate change, the climate crisis, the climate emergency? Well, the Biden administration recently they've been pushing this very hard, the climate emergency thing. And they said, hey, guys, we have a climate emergency. And for those that don't know what the powers that be actually will give you in a climate emergency is, it gives you ultimate powers. In a climate emergency situation, if they declare it, which they're working on right now, it gives them more lockdown powers than it does give them during the COVID pandemic. So with all that said, what are you guys' thoughts? Do you think that the climate change, climate emergency thing is all bullshit? We'll start with Dave. Dave, what do you think about climate change?
I think it's bullshit. I think if we were really worried about ocean levels and these things happening, then actuarial calculations would not allow coastal residences to be insured, right? Because they're in the business of making money, not paying out money. That math is done. And like you said, we can look at the long history of climate and see that volcanoes put out more than entire industrialized countries over 100 years in one eruption. Are some areas nuclear and irradiated, and is there areas with bad waste? I mean, you got, what is it, vinyl chloride that went into the water supply? Like, we stopped talking about that. And for all the people that get worked up about the environment, let's talk about real things with the environment. How long did Fukushima keep dumping out nuclear waste that was banned? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's still fucking going, right? So, well, we're worried about the environment. Are you worried about the technical waste dumps that we throw in Africa that children go into to strip copper wires and the growth defects? Are we worried about all the natural arsenic in India? Are we worried about the chemical dumps in China that are no. We're only worried about the things that we can milk you money for. As we talk about the duck-billed penguin, platypus, whatever. You know, the honeybees are dying. More honeybees are now than ever before. The polar bears are fine. When does the nonsense stop? When does the bullshit? The reality is, when are people going to be stopped being fucking stupid and think for themselves?
Never.
Stop listening to the talking heads. This show, the debate that we watched, while fun and entertaining, is nonsense. Neither one of those men are going to change the course. They don't run anything. They're not in charge.
Oh, you're right. No, Dave, you're 100% right. Nathan, what do you think about climate change? Do you think it's bullshit, Nathan?
I actually do. I don't own an electric car. I fly in airplanes more than I probably should. And I 100% think that climate change, the whole part of it, that it's being done by fossil fuels, I think is, I don't know if it's politically correct, but I can't use the R word. So it's just stupid. It is 100% stupid. And if it wasn't stupid, then all of the people that are out there talking about it and saying how bad it is, they want to be flying around in their private jets. But they are.
Yeah, that's true.
Good point.
I agree with that.
Could I throw something in there real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to you
As
next.
a shamanic practitioner, I have a very great affinity for the environment and for nature. So let me start by saying that all these people that are demanding that you give up everything in your life, they're not going to be giving up anything. Okay. And they've proven that over and over and over again, that they don't plan on giving up anything. Second of all, the notion that the climate is changing and that's because of human activity is absolutely ludicrous, especially when you look at the pole shifts and like what you were talking about, cyclonic cycles, you know, and the ice melting and all that stuff, you know, the core drills, all of these things. Excuse me, my cat. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to mention is this: to say that there is not real damaging pollution, like what was being said earlier. I think that actually is part of the reason why Republicans end up losing a lot of people on the left. If they would just acknowledge that there are corporations that are destroying the environment for profit, then we might actually get farther with them, and we might actually get somewhere with this whole infinite free clean wireless energy thing, because then we could start talking to these climate people about things like, you know, 0 point energy and Tesla Tower technology. If we were to tell these people, oh yeah, well, I agree, there's a huge pollution problem. There's Superfund sites all over the place. These electric vehicles are being supplied with batteries that are, you know, extracted with cobalt and lithium mined from slave labor. You know, if we can get on that and then say, but there's a solution, it's right here. Imagine what would happen if we could get all of these climate change people that are gluing their hands to the asphalt. If we could get all of these people stopping traffic to realize that 0 point energy, free energy, Tesla Tower technology has been deliberately kept from them and they have been lied to, then everything will change for the better. And we can actually create a system that isn't based off of war, famine, disease, and pollution.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jake.
I agree.
100%.
Okay,
By the way,
voting you for vice president now.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, Jake. You're
Wait a minute. I was saying that earlier.
Well, you're co-vice president. You're vice president.
No, I don't want to be vice president.
Listen, guys. Look at the screen. Okay. So they say sources. The first text that we just saw on CNN says Democrats say we have a problem. Right now, the second text says sources aggressive panic for Dems after Biden's performance tonight. This is CNN, guys.
Yep.
Listen,
we called it, didn't we?
Nathan, please tell me that I told you that I was going to call this.
We all called it.
We did.
We all called it. I think everybody called it. I think Joe Biden called it.
Not everybody. Listen, there was a lot of people that thought that Joe Biden was going to be drugged up enough tonight to where he was going to go on a debate stage and actually perform well. But there was a lot of people that thought that.
I think he's so hoarse is because he's practicing his script over and over and over again. And that's why he could not talk tonight.
Yeah, maybe.
I agree, but I also agree that I thought it was a 2-hour debate. And I think his pharmaceutical cocktail dissolved after 80 minutes.
No,
it was after
4 minutes,
like 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to Ashton real quick, though. Ashton, what do you think about what Jake was saying?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the whole climate change thing's a scam. I was just at the Cosmic Summit, and a lot of those guys who look back through ancient history show that temperatures have gone up and down several times in the last few thousand years. And I think that none of the people that are up there, they didn't have any questions on advanced technology or anything related to UFOs in general, because the military industrial complex is what controls everybody. They're not going to let any of them mention any of this stuff that we could end the climate crisis overnight with 0 point energy. It's really that simple. I know it's real. I'm literally started a company to sell the devices, and whether or not people think it's a scam or not, it's not a scam. So I'll tell you that. I do want to make a couple other quick comments. I don't know how long I'll be able to stay on, but I thought if Biden wants to have people pay their fair share, why isn't he doing it already? He's already president. He's talking like a guy who hasn't been president for the last 4 years. I don't understand that. I thought Trump made some really good comments on immigration, specifically that they're going to be taking black jobs. I think that will resonate with African Americans very strongly.
And Latino jobs too.
I also thought the comment about immigrants being holed up in hotels while veterans are out on the street is one that will definitely resonate with veterans. One thing where I think that Trump was incorrect, he said that Biden never fired anybody. I'm pretty sure they fired that cross-dressing guy that was stealing people's luggages and wearing the women's clothing or whatever. So technically, I think they fired one person. Now, there was a lot of pressure, but they did fire that guy, I think.
It was because I sent in a note.
Yeah. And then that's just my little joke. I also thought the Wall Street Journal freeing the guy that's been held in Russia, the Wall Street Journal reporter guy. Like, I thought that was a big comment from Trump as well. So the last thing I'll say is that I actually unironically want to see them golf against each other. I think it would be as entertaining as that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Then one last comment is that if Gavin Newsom ends up replacing Joe Biden, I'm gonna find Shad that podcast we did where we talked about that. I'm gonna clip that.
We did.
That was like 8 months ago. We literally called the Gavin Newsom to replace it.
You actually said it though. Yeah. You were the one that called it, and you said, "Hey, I think it's gonna be Newsom." I'm like, "No way in hell, bro!" Like, I really said
happen, man.
Like, there's
you just saw those clips, man. They're setting it up badly right now. They're setting it up. Look at that.
Yeah,
I still put my money on Hillary.
Who is Hillary? You think? No,
not Hillary. Hillary.
It doesn't matter, you guys. They don't have a.
I think you're gonna find Newsom dead somewhere, and Hillary's gonna be the only one left.
I think they want Trump in office.
Really?
I agree with Jake though. So. Their bench isn't deep, right? They have nobody.
They don't have a deep bench.
Obama. Yeah.
And the thing is, neither do the Republicans.
Correct.
The only reason why we have Trump is like our superstar as far as Republicans go. But when you look at all of the other people that are in the Republican Party or we're at the Republican debates, there's no real. I mean, Vivek got some traction, but once people really start getting below the surface with him, they're going to be like, "Whoa, no, not this guy." And DeFascist, he just crashed and burned. He's clearly not a leader. And same thing with Nikki Haley. I mean, and Chris Krispy Kreme, like all of these people. There's no substance there. Nobody's like getting anybody excited. And the thing is, it's because they can't relate to any of these people.
Goddamn Jake. I'm sorry.
It's brutal tonight. I love it.
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley. Listen, guys, and by the way, I think we should do this show like once a week, dude. Like, I mean, I know this was a debate, but we got 17,000 people in here, and I think that we have a lot of great conversation here. What do you guys think? And by the way, whenever anyone wants to get off, please do. But the numbers are just rising, so we're going to keep going until anybody wants to get off. What do you think about the Ukraine situation with Russia and also the Israel situation with Hamas? Do you think if Trump was in office, do you really think that Trump would have stopped that? Do you think that these wars would not have happened under Trump's administration? Like, let's be 100% honest.
And I say yes, and then you guys can go, because I know it would not have happened if Trump was in office. Sorry. I know. You guys go.
If you look at it in the sense of like in martial arts, if you leave yourself open and vulnerable, then your attacker is going to exploit those vulnerabilities, right? Biden was clear in his vulnerabilities. He was clear. His administration showed, hey, America's open for whatever it is that you do, and we won't do anything. Now, let's think about how it is that Hunter Biden is compromised, and therefore Joe Biden is compromised because of Hunter Biden's proclivity with Russian hookers and cocaine and children, and crack and all that stuff, right? All the laptops and phones of his that went missing when he was hanging out with Russian prostitutes, et cetera, et cetera. So we have Russia compromising Biden. We've also got the same thing going on with China and all the business dealings with China and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. So we got China compromising them, and we've also got Ukraine compromising them, and we've also got Israel compromising him with his new wife, Hunter Biden's new wife, which just so happens, wasn't that like his brother's widow or something?
Yeah.
So like all these different areas where Hunter Biden and therefore Joe Biden has been compromised. Now let's look at who has benefited the most from the Biden administration: China, Russia, Ukraine, and Israel. Mm-hmm. Hello. Yeah. So if Trump was in office and they could not compromise Trump the way that they've compromised Joe, would any of these things happen? Would we have been left vulnerable? No, we would have been intense, phalanx, guarding the man to our left, Spartans over here in America, and they wouldn't have been able to do anything. They would have been left with their dick in their hand because they don't have any videos,
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, guys, I want to ask you guys a question here. This is a tough question, right? This is a question that's probably the most contested question of all. And for Sherry and I, by the way,
I know you're going to Israel. And I did not even know Hunter's new wife has anything to do with Israel.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But we've been doing a podcast for 7 years. Sherry's family comes from a Jewish family.
You're going
yeah,
there.
we are. Yeah. She comes from a Jewish family. And I come from a Christian household. I want to get you guys' opinions on, for example, Ian Carroll was in here earlier. And Ian Carroll is very, very
vocal,
adamant on calling out Israel as a state. He's not calling out Jewish people. He's calling out Israel, right? And I think that's fair. What do you guys think about Israel in terms of the United States policy, and how much does Israel potentially control United States legislation and politics?
Well, you're talking about AIPAC?
If I may, and I'll try to make it fast because I know I can be long-winded. I want to make it clear. I have no problem with Jewish people. Okay?
Absolutely.
Just like Joe Biden doesn't represent the American people, I don't believe that the Israeli government represents the Israeli people. Okay. And I think that the Israeli government has done a lot of bad stuff, just like the American government has done a lot of bad stuff. But the people of these nations oftentimes, in fact, it behooves the government to make sure that the people don't know the nefarious shit that their government is up to. So with that being said, when it comes to Israel and how they influence legislation, I think it was Massey that was talking the other day about how pretty much everybody in Congress has an AIPAC guy, right? I think he was talking to Tucker.
Yeah.
And so hold on a second. That means that our congressional officials, they don't have an American lobbyist type person that's at their side. No, they have an Israeli lobbyist type person that's at their side. Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. Okay. Jesselyn Maxwell, her father was Mossad. She was Mossad. Okay. And if we look at the characters that are associated with things like the music industry or the entertainment industry or the mockingbirds in the media, etc., then what do we see? We don't necessarily see Jewish people. We see what are called Zionists. And look, I have no problem with the Jewish people having a homeland. My issue is that I don't understand how it is that people could be slaughtering one another for thousands of years over a very small sliver of land, and people can call it holy. That just doesn't compute with me. And we can find any one place for people to live in peace and harmony, but the propaganda keeps us divided and at each other's throats.
I don't think it's propaganda. I think it's the Bible.
What's that? I'm sorry?
I don't think it's propaganda. I think it's the Bible.
Yeah, and Jake,
keeps people fighting.
Yeah, and Jake, what she's kind of thinking about, if you think about Old Testament, right? When God basically told the Israelites, right, to go into Canaanite, which is now Israel, and slaughter every living thing in there because it was their land. Like, is Israel still on that same kind of guideline and basis? Is that kind of their thought process? Because,
but you also have to understand that 75% of the people in the Gaza region want Jews dead.
Yeah.
Well, but hold on a second. And this is from what I understand, like genetically, the Palestinian people actually have more in common with the ancient real Hebrew tribes than the people that are currently claiming that they're Jewish and that they have right to that land. So, like, if I recall correctly, Jesus was a Jew. And they said that his skin was like golden brown, that his hair was like sheep's wool, that his eyes were like brown, like a fire color, or like a golden fire. And that sounds to me like a lot like a Middle Eastern man, or somebody of Middle Eastern descent.
Well, if I could jump in,
I mean, I don't know. Look, I wasn't trying to go down the whole, Israel.
No, I know. I'm sorry.
My point was that Biden has so many different levels of being compromised in all of the countries that have benefited from him being in office. And none of those people, in my opinion, have the same kind of leverage. Definitely China, Russia, Ukraine. And, a lot of people say Israel is with Trump. But, I mean, all of these countries don't have the kind of compromising stuff on Trump that they do on Biden or Hunter Biden. So I don't think any of this stuff would have happened if Trump were in office.
Yeah, you're right. Ashton, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that the Biden administration wants all these wars to happen. I think that Israel definitely pulls the strings, probably pulls the strings on both sides. I mean, the Israel-Palestine situation is a murky one because, you know, we just kind of agreed to give a bunch of white Jewish people part of a holy land in the Middle East, and we did that like 75 years ago. So now we're stuck in a situation where we're too far gone on it, and you know, there's no easy answer anymore. The Ukraine war, I don't know if I fully agree with what Trump said in general, but I don't think that we would be in that war if Trump were president right now, and I think that's the important piece. I think that all of these wars are just for money. I don't think that they serve any practical purpose to the people of the United States. For me, if there's one thing I agree, I'm certainly not an anti-Semite. I have a lot of Jewish friends, and I respect Jewish people. But one thing I do agree with Nick Fuentes on is America first, which should be that we should not be giving money to foreign countries when we have a massive homeless problem. Sorry, what were you saying?
Why are we giving it to Ukraine then?
Yeah, the Ukraine thing, like obviously that's a proxy war. And in my opinion, we're doing that to weaken Russia because Ukrainians are dying and Ukrainians are like closely ethnically aligned with Russians, you know? So I mean, half the country is ethnic Russians.
Right.
So we're just like having Russians kill other Russians on both sides. And we're just weakening them, you know? And to me, that's disgusting. I think it's no better than the wars that we had in Iraq and Syria. And I'm now old enough where I've seen all of this stuff, you know, as an adult for the last 20 years. You know, I don't know. I would say that I probably lean towards voting for Trump, but I think that both sides really aren't going to accomplish what people like Jake and I and the rest of you guys, I think, really want.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ashton, well, that's a great point, by the way. And Dave, I want to start with you on this question. How close is America to a dictatorship?
Not at all.
We're already there.
You don't think?
No, not at all. Not at all. The question is, who's the man behind the curtain? This is a Wizard of Oz story. This is the Emperor has no clothes. They want you to think they can do these things. They rule by fear and the tactics of the media, and it's just all an illusion. It's all, like, not to say it's all Hollywood, but it is. It's theatrics, right? The world's a stage. They need you to believe these things. Like, so during the COVID ridiculous lockdown where I live, nothing changed.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. We lived our lives. We drove. We went to the grocery stores. We pointed at people who wore masks and called them dumbasses and just continued on with our life. Everyone else who was in theater that was hiding in their houses, like, okay, that's something you're doing. It's not, I mean, that's your reality, I guess, but that's not the world.
Yeah.
It's not the world. This is all theater. This is all theater. You know, we talk about different countries. It's the intelligence agencies that rule everything. They have their fingers in all these networks. We've known about it. It's made known to the public. Everything they rouse you to get up in arms. When you read a news article and you feel something, that was the intention. It's not informing you, it's steering you. It's not educating you, it's guiding you. It's controlling how you think. That's why the NSA ceded all the money to all these different social media companies. Right?
Yeah.
They want the baseline. They want the metrics. They want to be in your head. They want you addicted to them. They want you to get off on the fear porn, man. Every day, look at your phone. Look at the social media. The world's burning. This thing's hard. Yeah. Is the dollar devalued? Sure. We're going to talk about all these policies. The reality is it's inflation. And the reality is we need to look at the central banking system and how it is. That's the problem.
If I can add on to that real quick.
We get to the communication and the shipping, you need to look at the intelligence agencies and how they're guiding the public perspective.
And that's also why psychedelics are illegal.
True. The inflation thing's a big one too, though, right? Because inflation is a lot of the problems that we see that were talked about there, but it's this kind of subversive thing where you don't really, it's hard to, unless you're like paying more money at the grocery bill, you don't see all the damage that it causes the economy. Like I think Jake was talking about earlier, how it can destroy Social Security as well. And they just kind of gloss over that. But the part that I really wanted to add on to was the intelligence agencies and the narratives that are formed, and we're told what to care about. Like, this goes back to the climate change thing as well, is that people are told to care about climate change. People are told to care about January 6th, that it was an insurrection. These are narratives that are formed because they have people focus on those things instead of the things that really matter, and they distract us from the things that really matter. And I think that if we want to advance, we have to get past that.
I agree. And by the way, guys, I truly believe too, and I want to point this out. I mean, I think that we're on the cusp of something that is going to change. There are new reports coming out right now that there are detainment camps that are being set up. Now, that is a conspiracy theory right now, but the reality is that there are actual detainment camps, FEMA detainment camps, or what some would call re-education camps. Sherry.
Okay, well, and the same thing is 15-minute.
No, it's not the same thing. No, these are camps to where the United States government is saying that they're going to use these camps as placeholders for immigration, right? For immigrants that are coming across the border, they're going to house these people in detainment camps, right? But the actual reality is that there have been documents that have been changed on the Department of Justice and Department of DOD to where they are stating now that these potentially could also involve United States citizens. Is it at all possible? And I'll go to I'll go to you guys. 2024, I've been talking about on the podcast for quite a while. I think 2024 is not going to be a fair election. And some people might say, "Oh my God, you're psycho, you're crazy, you're Trump deranged," or you're not Trump deranged. It's probably Biden's senile syndrome. I don't know what the hell they're going to call me, but the reality is that we are leading into the 2024 election, and you just saw what happened in this debate. Now, if, for example, that Biden is the actual candidate for the Democrat Party and he wins this time again. Is that really a fair election? But the reality is, guys, I think that we are in a state to where we are done. I don't think there is going to be another Republican president in office again, fairly elected in any way, shape, or form.
And you have to remember, most of these people on the panel are not even Republicans.
No, I mean,
none of them are.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Libertarians.
Well, I know Ashton. I mean, I think we're all pretty much independents. I think we're all pretty much libertarians. Yeah, libertarians. We want what's best for.
But we're not Chase Oliver libertarians, though.
Yeah,
we're not Chase Oliver libertarians. Let's make
Jake's cracking me up tonight.
But Jake, do you think though that we could potentially have a 100% show? You know, kind of like the Trump show trial, but could we have a show election? Is that possible? Do you think we've advanced so far?
Totally. It's entirely possible. Now, part of the reason why I don't think that we're going to see quite the same level or quite the same tactics that were used in 2020 is because a lot of the tactics that were used then have been since made illegal, that the loopholes have been closed. So that's part of why I think that they're flooding the country with all of these illegals and then handing them voter registration forms, because they're going to try to get these illegals to vote and have that be, the change in the election. Unlike last time, where they had to change the laws, they had to do mail-in ballots, COVID, blah, 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 blah. So the tactic is going to change. Will there be fuckery afoot? Most certainly. You can bet on that. Okay. But that doesn't mean it's going to be the same fuckery. It can be totally different and will be totally different because they're going to have to adapt to the times. Now, Trump has talked about making it too big to rig. So what we have to remember is that the court of public opinion and the voice of the people is actually far more powerful than these, propagandists would have us believe.
Yeah.
And anytime they've ever gone too far and there's been enough of an uproar, they've changed their minds and be like, oh, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Like this whole Ministry of Truth thing that they were talking about doing. And, this branch for stopping misinformation and disinformation in the government. So that being said, I think that if we turn out en masse and we make it too big to rig, then there will be no other way about it. And I think it's also important to note here that the Democrats are these globalists, these communists, and that also goes for some rhinos in the Republican Party as well.
Yeah.
They are thinking decades and centuries ahead. So they might just let Trump win and then plan everything for 2028, which is why I'm saying the VP position is so important, and having somebody there that's real and is going to do the job that Trump would do for 8 years after is so vital.
No, I agree. And by the way, guys, I really think that they let Biden burn tonight. I think they let Biden burn. Me and Nathan talked about this the other day. I think it was yesterday, actually. I said, Nathan said, are they going to pump him full of drugs? Is he going to be on? Is he going to be accurate? Is he going to be what we maybe expect as a president or not? And I told Nathan, I said, I think that they're going to let him burn because they have to. There's no way that Biden is going to go into 2024 as the primary candidate. There's no way. And regardless of how we want to look at whoever comes into office, whoever the new candidate is, whether it's Michelle Obama or whoever, it's not going to be Biden. And literally, if you guys look right now, I just want to show you. If you guys look right now, let me see. Okay, right now. Okay, that's not showing it. But as we've been talking about, the Democrats are panicking. They are panicking. CNN themselves are saying Democrats have to make a change. These little headlines on the bottom, this was pre-planned, guys. I'm telling you, this was pre-planned. This was not something that they hoped that Biden would do good and he just didn't. No, this was them putting him on a stake and burning him. This was the Democrats basically giving Joe Biden up as a sacrifice. And that's what they did tonight. And I was wondering, I was like, are they really going to try to push this through, or are they going to try to sacrifice him at the stake? Because obviously we've all heard Joe Biden versus Trump is not a good scenario in most cases. Joe Biden is not going to do good against Trump. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Like, did they burn him at a stake tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that they burned him. I think that they let him flounder.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't know that they came in and actually just let him burn. I think he just kind of floundered like a burning. I think he would have, they would have thrown more to the wolves. And I think he kind of just out there.
Yeah, but
I think they let everybody see what everybody's already been knowing, especially on the Democrat side, but they have been running cover for. I think now, if anything, they're like, all right, we got to do something different. There's no way he can beat Trump. So let's throw him out there and let's see what he does. Let's see how bad it gets. And then we'll say, oh, this is just awful. We have to do something different, especially right as the, DNC is coming up. We have to do something different.
No, I agree.
I think we should take bets on who's going to replace him.
No, I agree.
I'm putting my money on Hillary.
Yeah, I have to ask this question because I know we've been going for a while. It's 11:30, and I see Ashton. I think he left and came back. I want everyone's opinion right now. So they had a question recently, right, about aliens, and aliens, advanced tech, all this stuff. What do you guys really think about, like, the spiritual potential connection of aliens and UFOs, UAPs, or advanced United States weaponry? And the reason why I want to ask this, right, is because we have had many conversations about this lately. And as Ashton is in this stream, Ashton has been advocating and investigating and proving a lot of the stuff around MH370, right? So we have a pretty intellectual investigation around MH370. What do you guys think about aliens, UFOs, UAPs? How much of it do you think is the government, and how much do you think is actual other intelligence outside of what we know to be possible. I'm going to start with Ashton, by the way.
Yeah. And I'm going to drop after this as well because I'm tired and I'm still recovering. But
how much does the government know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the government knows way more than they're leading on. And I think there's something dark related to the UFO phenomenon, potentially that it has some significance to our history or why we're on this planet, something that I think is so dark that they think that many people will freak out. And I think that, like Dr. Stephen Greer would say, I think that the vast majority of the UFOs we see are ours. And then there's some percentage, maybe 10% or something like that, that are of some other origin, which I don't really know. The military is far more advanced than what the public actually understands. I think it was Annie Jacobson just went on Joe Rogan. She's talking about nuclear war. Like these, if you're talking about nuclear war, you are a dinosaur. You're talking about 80-year-old technology from people that nobody's alive anymore. We are well beyond that in general. I wish that we could have a president that could disclose some of this advanced technology. If people want to know the truth, all they have to do is go talk to the engineers that work in the private military defense contractor labs. Like they're open. Salvatore Paez, who part of the reason why I met Jake Chansley is that I interviewed Salvatore Paez. He's got these patents that did get declassified under Trump. I was told that there was potentially like a loophole that allowed the patents to get out into the public. Otherwise, they would never have allowed those patents to get out there. Inertial mass reduction for transmedium craft, high frequency gravitational wave generator. There are papers going back to the early 2000s about high frequency gravitational waves. We just have to pay attention to them. And I know just for a fact, because I am a good judge of character and I've talked to engineers, that Salvatore Paez is not some kind of limited engagement. It's not disinformation. The guy works with Space Force and the Navy. He's seen some stuff like maybe the floaty orbs in the MH370 videos. That is the reason why he wanted to disclose some of that and help the world get to that. So I feel like my purpose on this planet is to help wake people up to the technology that a lot of people don't realize is possible. So
yeah.
Also, real quick, I want to thank everybody I have a second. I want to thank Jake, Nathan, who I got to see face to face for the first time, L. Dave, and Chad and Sherry. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah,
no, not a problem, man.
Absolutely, we love you.
Yeah, we love you, Ashton. And keeping in mind too, what Ashton's doing right now is unprecedented. It's not unprecedented, but it's revolutionary in our time. And I know you're going to get a lot of backlash, but I think you're doing a great job. And I know Jake, you've been huge with spirituality. Even when you came on our podcast, you were talking about a lot of things. Where are we going? What is our beliefs? Is God real? Is he not? Where are we going to go when we die? All these various things, but also there's obviously the connection of what does the government know? What are the things that we are seeing actually, the government versus alien tech, so on and so forth. What is your response to Ashton and just that, our whole question on that?
Well, I'd like to start by saying that in my time of talking about these patents and talking about this technology and classified patents and disruptive technologies, have yet to find somebody that is as well versed as myself, if not better, than Ashton. Because Ashton, seriously, I understand the concepts that he's talking about, but he understands the concepts that he's talking about. And I just, I have to applaud him and give him his kudos. He's probably the most well-versed civilian that I've ever conversed with that is able to understand this stuff and articulate it in a way that other people can understand. So bravo to you, Ashton. And you're right in the beginning too. So good for you, man. That being said, I think that the government craft that we often see is actually a response to what I like to call organic UFOs, which are like these interdimensional, astral projecting, bilocating, hyperdimensional beings that are, yes, from another world, or I would, instead of saying another planet, I would say another dimension. In another dimension within this intricate and almost infinite web of dimensions and life that's all around us. Keep in mind, we only see less than 1% of the light spectrum or the electromagnetic spectrum. We only perceive less than 1%. So that means that if there's life everywhere within that little sliver of less than 1% that we perceive with our 5 senses, then why wouldn't life be in the other 99%? And I think that is really, like, if AI says anything, it's that there's life in other dimensions. And not all life is benevolent. I think that AI's presence on this planet and the effects of it are a perfect example of what would happen with a covert alien invasion, because our planet is currently being terraformed by an invasive parasitic species that is attempting to not just destroy the biodiversity of our ecosystems and turn them into something that allows this artificial intelligence to thrive, but also makes the biodiversity in the ecosystem totally there's no biodiversity. It's totally unlivable. And it's all because this AI system, this AI thing, wants to thrive and use human beings to do it. So
are you saying about like humanoids? Is that what you're kind of talking about, or what?
No. So look at it like this. There was a guy that was like a transhumanist that was all into this AI stuff. He was actually like one of the leading investigators and inventors. I think it was somewhere in Silicon Valley. I forgot the guy's name, but he was talking about how the entities that they are attempting to place in these robotic bodies that they have built in Silicon Valley, the entities that they are attempting to place into these bodies, these robot bodies, he likened them to the old gods from H.P. Lovecraft lore. He said that these are beings from another dimension, that they are not human. They don't have any sort of human attachment. They don't think much of humanity. They don't care much for us. And they just want to live in our dimension. Now, wait a second. These things don't eat. They don't sleep. They don't breathe. They don't, do all the things that we would normally do to survive. So what are these things that these people are trying to bring in from this other dimension into these humanoid robotic bodies that they're making these vessels for these sentient beings from another dimension? Yeah. And then they're also creating an environment, the world, where the frequencies that are being emitted from our technologies are not good for our bodies, but they aren't going to negatively affect the AI. If anything, it'll be helpful for the AI because it can mine the data. There's other things like the pollution that goes into lithium mining or cobalt mining, or, the list goes on and on, that is destroying environments. There's also all the other pollution, like the running off of water supplies and like rivers and streams to go into massive computer areas that are basically running the internet or running these AI systems. And so they're siphoning our natural water supply to go in and cool these computers. And then when they get rid of the water, it's all contaminated with these pollutants. So they're literally terraforming the planet. They're getting rid of the metals that are used to transmit the electromagnetic signal of our planet and the electromagnetic field. They're mining these things, pulling them out. They're like basically ripping the copper from our house here, and they're converting it into this other system that will make life unlivable for us and livable for this AI. Now, coming back to this notion of God, and I'll wrap it up here. God is real. Absolutely. And guess what? Reincarnation is actually just physics. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It simply changes form. Why would it be any different with our soul? Why, we are living in a shall we say, hyperdimensional version of a multiverse. And our karmic path is going to determine how high the frequency of our soul is and where we come back in on when it comes to, the earth, etc. So God is currently we're at a point now where we're starting to recognize the unity of all things, which is God, the omnipresent source of all things, which is God. And once we recognize that omnipresent source and we recognize our unity and we recognize our connection to it, each other, and nature, then any sort of invasive species or artificial intelligence or whatever is not going to stand a chance, because the consciousness will raise so high that our ascension intelligence will beat artificial intelligence and anything low frequency any day of the week.
By the way, but that does make me feel better. At least,
it does.
Because AI really scares me.
It does. Yeah. And by the way, Jake, to what you're saying, I think there's a lot of government programs that have studied this, right? They've studied remote viewing. They have studied people's consciousness. They have studied people's ability to overcome or overpower their own mental state, right? And I think also why a lot of things have been classified with the CIA or government is because of the fact that when we look at a very realistic everyday life scenario that we live in, right? We live in a government society to where people are over people. And it is someone somehow that was put in place that says that you are only allowed to do this or this or this, and we are the rulers over you. And yet, yes, we're supposed to be elected into power to where we say that, you know what, guys, we're working for you. Although we know for sure that they're corrupted pieces of shit in most cases. But also, when you look at the actual powers, what you're talking about, the actual higher consciousness, the government really classifies that as top secret because of what people can potentially do. Because if people do realize the capabilities of their own selves.
Yes, and most people have those capabilities. They just don't know how to harness it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people have those capabilities, but if they realize those capabilities, then people would also realize the absurdness, right, of people over people. And then people would start to transcend, to ascend into a higher dimension. And I know that sounds weird. And
no, and I think I already think people can do that. Regular human beings can transcend to different dimensions, depending on how much
psychic
they use
abilities, whatever. Yeah,
and depending on
and
how
that's
much.
one of the things that Tucker Carlson noted is that he said that one of the things that he's noticed is that when it comes to the UFO phenomena, the government is intent on trying to debunk the existence of paranormal or spiritual elements to things, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's because most people, like when Christ said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Christ was not lying. Okay. I think most people, if they understood the real power they had at their fingertips, they'd freak out. And that's why this political theater is there for us. That's why Hollywood is there for us. That's why the entertainment industry, you name it, they've got something to distract you from this thing that, like, if you connect with it, then there's no stopping you.
No, I agree. I 100% agree, Jake.
Yep.
And by the way, Dave, you were talking about you've been on some paranormal encounters, experiences, and we're actually planning some of that stuff in Tennessee, dude. And Jake, I would love for you to come with us. Absolutely.
As long as I'm on probation.
Well, whatever. We'll figure it out.
Well, maybe we'll ask our probation officers if you can go.
Listen, if you become vice president, though, can you not pardon yourself at some point? I don't know. We'll figure it out. But Dave, some of these places in East Tennessee, dude, these paranormal experiences, these jails, these mental institutions, do you ever actually have real experiences? I know you've told me about some of those, but do you think that spirits are real? I mean, I know we're getting way off topic, but why not? 18,000 people listening right now. We might as well give them something to listen to.
My cup of tea.
Yeah. Dave, what do you think about paranormal? Do you think it's real? And especially to what Jake said, like how much people can tune in? Do you think there are more people that can tune in? And by the way, Jake, I want to get back to you on this, but Dave, what about ghost? What about paranormal? What is your thoughts and feelings on that?
I think the paranormal is real. I think it's bizarre and shady and complicated, and too many people give definitive answers about things they really don't grasp. I don't know how much stock I put in like psychic phenomenon, right? Or at least the traditional definition of psychic phenomenon.
Well, I'm definitely psychic.
Well, yeah. Well, so that's the thing, though. So and I should clarify that, right? Like the thing we have to be specific about is words and the definitions behind words. So when you look at like psychic, what jumps into people's minds are the fortune tellers that can tell you the future, and they're incredibly accurate, or they're able to converse physically with these things. Where when you meet people with what, like the quote unquote psychic twinkle, they have feelings, they get impressions, they see things in their mind that can kind of link. So it's one of those things. It's a loaded word, right? It's a lot of things. so's paranormal, like UFO and alien and all these things. They've hijacked the language and diluted it, and it's confused and it's messy now. But is the paranormal real? Yeah, you can go to interesting places and have that. Is the experience you're having some kind of memory of energy of something traumatic? Maybe. Is it something intelligent that you're communicating with? When Ollie and Lee from Alien Addict came out, we were able to arrange that, and we had a very interesting session, and things got the most interesting when we were having this kind of weird communication session, and we asked it what it really was, because we didn't believe it was a former prisoner. Yeah. And that's when things got interesting. So it's, there's a whole other world there. Like Jake had said, we can only see a very limited amount of what's going on around us. And the neat thing, I was say, the neat thing about East Tennessee is you also have secret government labs that are based here heavily, famously, that nobody talks about.
Days.
What's up?
And I just want to mention, I think they're both related in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, I got to ask you. I know you're on here, but Jake, what do you think? Do you think there are more people in tune to some of these things? I mean, do you think that's even real? By the way, paranormal encounters. I mean, and by the way, the reason why this
stuff you see on TV, like ghost hunters, is bullshit.
Yeah, that's totally bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah.
The stuff that really happens to people is the stuff that a lot of the time isn't believed. I would say that this notion of psychic abilities, I think people are not understanding what they're talking about. Like I think Dave said, we have to define what it is that we mean, because his definition or my definition of paranormal or psychic could be totally different from somebody else's that went to college, or somebody in India or whatever, in their definition of these words.
Right.
So look at it like this. When we talk about like psychic abilities, what we're talking about is extrasensory perception, the ability to perceive things beyond your limited physical senses, right? So one of the things that most everybody experiences in this regard is when somebody is staring at you and you can feel them staring at you, and you look right where they're at, where they're staring, and you're like, I see you, I felt you staring at me, and I found you. And I think that was born from a need to survive. So if we're on the African plains hunting wildebeests, right? Yeah. And we're right on the edge of the herd, and we're focusing all of our attention on that one wildebeest right there. But then all of a sudden we feel something's looking at me. Yeah. We feel eyes on our back. We turn, and lo and behold, there's a lion that is in the grass that's hunting you while you're hunting the wildebeest and are distracted, right? So you would have to have that in order to survive. Now, there's also a different, and this goes into the way that we perceive time. We don't just perceive time linearly, okay? Our consciousness is hyperdimensional, which means that we're getting information both from the past and taking it into the present and into the future, as well as information coming from the future into the present and then into the past. So we're able to have this like standing wave of energy that manifests in space and time, where we perceive reality beyond our five senses. And this is how people are able to get these gut feelings of like, I should not go down that alleyway. Something bad is going to happen. Or maybe I should stop at this yellow light, because if I go through, somebody might hit me or whatever, right? And then you stop, and lo and behold, somebody zooms through and runs a red.
Right.
Okay. So this is extrasensory perception. And once you start to develop these muscles, then you can take them levels further, like say astral projection or bilocation. And what does this have to do with the presidential debate? All of this is stuff that the CIA has already found and in many cases declassified. But the Mockingbird media is not covering it. They aren't making this headline news that, yes, CIA found psychic abilities or extrasensory perception is real. And I'll tell you why. Because then they'd have motherfuckers developing these abilities and going into secret bases all over the country and remote viewing above top secret material.
I was going to say that remote viewing is what they're going after.
Yeah.
So it's and then the technology, and this is where I'll land the plane here. the technology will also totally revolutionize, or rather evolutionize our system. So we're no longer dependent upon the bureaucracy or on these people, like what you were saying, the people that are above us in this social construct, to tell us what to do, or to basically keep us dependent upon them. And the technology that has been created is a response to the organic UFOs or UAPs, or the astral projectors, either from this dimension or from another, interacting with our time and space continuum.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, I 100% agree with you, man. You say a lot of very real shit. I'll just put it that way.
He does.
You say a lot of real shit. And I was gonna ask Nathan, he popped off here, but you know, we talk a lot about religion and UFOs, right? I mean, me and Nathan often talk about that, and he comes from a Mormon side. I grew up Christian, and Sherry grew up Jewish, and I don't know what
I didn't
Dave
grow up
is.
Jewish. I grew up religion, but
Yeah,
it was-
non-religion Jewish
yeah,
family. Yeah, absolutely. But you know, it's just there's so many people, I guess, nowadays asking the hard questions. I think there's so many people that are so confused, and I think there's so many people that are desperate to find answers. And you know,
I'm one of them.
Yeah, well, I'm one of them. I mean, it's not just you. And I think if you're not desperate to find answers, then you are probably just conformed to the system. If you are not actively looking for every possible scenario, every possible answer you can possibly find.
Yeah, and that's why I often go against religion and go more spirituality.
Well, I think
that's where I feel like I belong.
Yeah, I think Sherry rejects religion in some ways, in some types, because she feels like it's kind of the norm, but also with science and especially with government and politicians nowadays, it's like, damn, they're kind of leading me back to like a spirituality side of things, because they're so far off on what they actually believe and think. And especially with the things that Jake, you just talked about, and what we've talked about on our podcast.
Yeah. And the first time I ever spoke to Jake, I was like, oh my God, this is my guy. This is what I believe in. This is what I know exists. I know that.
Yeah. I do believe Jake's amazing at kind of relaying how he feels about things. And Jake, I'm glad, by the way, that you are so at the very least in tune with how you believe and what you believe. But Jake, you do realize too, though, there are so many people out there that do not think that way. I mean, there's a lot of people that just do not know what the hell to believe. And where do they even start, dude? I mean, that's the problem. You watch this debate tonight, Trump versus Biden. Most people are thinking this is a fucking
shit show.
Like, at the very least, it is a simulation, dude. Like, this is not real life. And I think it was, I don't know who it was. Someone had said, is this real life, the other day? And I posted a comment on, I got 100,000 whatever. And I said, no, we went through some kind of portal. I don't know where the hell we're at right now, but we're not in it, even 10 years ago. We're not there anymore. I mean, is that even possible to go through a dimension? Is it possible to transcend a reality? And it seems like maybe that's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, you know, it makes me think about, have you guys seen that video, David After Dentist?
I think so. I think
a long time ago, the kid's like 9 years old, and he's after he got his teeth removed and, you know, had surgery, he's on anesthesia, and he says, is this real life?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The thing is that we in society in many ways are like under a form of anesthesia with the fluoride and the glyphosate and the propaganda and these frequencies and the entertainment and the porn and like you name it. We're being anesthetized, right? Yeah. And that's why there's so many people that are watching this political theater and they're so heavily engaged. And it's because their mind, their spirit is not developed enough to see beyond the charade. This is part of why I practice shamanism, because for thousands of years, shamans have realized that the cultural paradigm is bullshit. It doesn't matter what culture it is. It's not objective reality. So the shaman strives to perceive objective reality as much as possible, which is something that's always going to be expanding. There's always going to be new information coming in, which is part of the reason why the shamans are so open-minded. Like when Terrence McKenna talked about computers in the Amazon, to these shaman, these ayahuasqueros, they were like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. That kind of makes me think of blah, 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 blah. In the ayahuasca, state, we see this and that, and we experience this and that, and that kind of parallels the computer. So they tried to understand. And I think that we're in a day and age where most people, they're not trying to understand. They're trying to confirm their bias.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Dave, and I want to get your opinion on this. Where do you feel like reality is today? Do you feel like we're so far gone from reality? Are we in a simulation, to your belief?
Yeah, you have to work in the definition of define a simulation, right? If you're a spiritual being in a physical suit, and we're all spiritual beings and we're energy, and these are the avatars with which we've limited ourselves to go through this life, right? Then yeah, it's a simulation of simpleness that we've handicapped ourselves. That's one aspect. Right? I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just like, it's too broad. Like what I take away from this is how I deal with it. Right. I used to be on a real kick of trying to figure it out and researching it and looking.
You were like a avid Catholic. You went to Catholic church and everything.
No, not Catholic.
Man, what are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry.
My
bad.
Sherry's retarded. Sorry.
I thought you went to Catholic church.
Anyways,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I grew up Pentecostal.
Okay, sorry.
I went to a religious college. I was ordained by a non-denominational church when I was 17, but I'm not Catholic.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
He was not molesting boys. Oh shit!
Nor was I molested by them. It's at the end of the day, right? Like what matters is what's real and what's real to you. What's real to me is my wife, my kids, my friends, the neighborhood, and day-to-day life and experience. These debates, they're light years away. They're not impacting my ride. They're not impacting this journey. It's a distraction. It's one of the many ways that, the principalities, powers the air, the things that rule in high places, right? They want you to think that they're everywhere and they're with you and they can influence you. Yeah, you're messing with my inflation. That sucks. You're doing this and that. But the reality is I'm still going to my kid's ball game. We're still living our life. Everything is still provided. We're moving forward. Mm-hmm. I'm not letting these things haunt every part of me. I'm not letting it, most importantly, harden my heart. I'm not letting it worry me and keep me asleep. I'm not going to let it make my spirit, my energy, my mind sick with these things. I mean, and I'm definitely a person that could get caught on that and go in that direction. The nature of my past definitely allows for that. But that's the key, man. If you want the world to be positive and put it forward. Try and be the person that you would like to encounter. You want to make the world better. You want to help. People are like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to change. We need to do this. We need to do that. Be kind. Be there for somebody. Be selfless. For your neighbor, for the person at the grocery store. That's the shit that matters.
Yeah, I agree.
If you want to impact evil, you want to change the world, be kind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And be kind when no one's watching.
Yeah, that's so hard. But to your point, I don't want to be devil's advocate. Holy shit, I'm about to be. But just to your point, though, when is kind not enough? Like, when is kind absolutely not? And I'm not trying to be bad because we've already streamed CNN stream. Holy shit, we're gonna be
we're gonna be sued.
Yeah, we're already screwed. We're already on the chopping block. But in reality, guys, when is being nice not enough, right? Even if you look at, I'm not even gonna say it because it's like even quoting the Constitution is a domestic terror type thing you could say nowadays.
Oh no, they put it into a state. I can't remember. Arkansas, I think.
Well, no. But no, listen. They classified 2A as a domestic terror symbol.
Oh, yeah.
And all these things. Mm-hmm. By the way, Dave, I 100% agree with you. Being nice, you got to do it. You got to project positivity on people. But it's just like, I feel like there's so many people that are just like fed up, right? And there's so many people that are desperate. There's so many people that are I told Sherry, it's
okay.
like,
I know what you're saying. Saying. The point to that is easy, right? Like, I've spent the majority of my life in the study of violence and violent acts. I've trained men to do violence. I've trained men to take lives. That was bread and butter, right? This is the reality of it. Most people are not prepared for that. Not here, not at their home, not with fellow countrymen. It's easier when someone is of a different color, they speak a different language, and it's a different place. And when you have someone giving you the arbitrary authority from on high to do horrible things. Here, for something to be so radical to change here, it will take a great movement, because the men who are capable of doing horrible things, the first person that dies in that is themselves. It's the father, it's the husband, it's the good man. He's the one that goes. And then they're going to go and they're going to do things that most people will never fathom, things you could never dream, atrocities and horrors that no one would dare to put in a book or a movie. Right. Yeah. And then that person is lost. How long does it take to come back? I don't know. And the thing is, everyone capable of that does not want to find out. It's too easy to talk about taking up arms, especially in your own country. Because here's the thing, and let's be specific. Who's the actual enemy? Your neighbor, Bob?
No, no, not really.
Sam down the street who, works at the FBI and is just trying to do his job, and our kids play soccer together. Is that my enemy? Is it the security guard doing that? Like, where does it begin? In better question, where does it end? When the heads start to roll, when does it stop?
Yeah, and that's what's so weird. That's what's so weird with the difference today with the Civil War, right? I mean, you had, I think Shane Gillis had an amazing bit about, those guys down there in the South talking shit. Okay, I'm gonna go down there with my gun. I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna walk for 2 months. I'm gonna go down there and shoot them in the face. And it was an amazing bit, because it was just like, we are so readily able to see everyone's opinions, and yet now we are not at all willing to do anything because we can't. And listen, I think in a large part, I don't ever advocate violence.
Well, I think our hands are tied, just like Israel. I'm sorry, their hands are tied too.
Well,
as long as we can communicate. So here's the thing: as long as we're talking, as long as there's dialogue, we have a path.
Yeah,
it's when the conversation stops, that's when the blood starts flowing, and the blood does not stop flowing until conversation restarts. All right, talking is the key, and really, it's states' rights. Because I'll paint the narrative. Like, if I'm doing it, if I'm thinking about this from, if a 3-letter agency is paying me to war game this for them, I tell them the best thing you can do is let Biden to see if he can carry the water. If he can't, understand the best thing that benefits the federal government isn't who's in power, but the chaos that is generated by their presence in power.
Yeah.
Right? If you allow Trump to be in power, this is the thing to take away. When Trump was going to be on the ballot, what was the first state to try and get him off the ballot? Colorado.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody saw that coming. Do you know what that means?
Mm-hmm.
That means there are so many radicalized people in positions of powers in places we haven't thought of. They'll be the first ones to pull.
Yeah.
When they see Trump go in, you're going to see states pull away. And then it's states, right? It's states' rights. There's not really going to be violence. It's going to be legal battles, and we're not going to allow travel here, but we're going to do this. And because we're 50 individual countries, that's really what we are.
And what Dave's talking about is taking Trump off the ballot in different states.
Yeah, but Jake, let me ask you this. Have you ever, what is your thoughts on this is called the United States of America. But what if it was the divided states of America? Like, what if it was like a North and South Korea situation? Do you ever see that possible? Because, I mean, the reality is, with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, although when I say Republican Party, we're not saying they're all right. And we're definitely not saying the Democrats are all right. Because, as you said, there are a lot of piece of shit people in the Republican Party as well. But just think about, you take this amount of people in the conservative states, right? Or the states that believe in America. They want the values of America. They want the things that are true to their values. Do you ever see almost like a North and South Korea situation in America? I mean,
I'll explain why. If you look at a map of the United States of America based on counties and how those counties vote, what you will find is that most of the counties in the United States are actually red. They're Republican.
Yes.
It's the major cities, which are filled with corruption, that are actually the ones that are voting blue. And these major cities, with these corrupt few are the ones trying to dictate the lives of everybody else in all these other counties, especially in rural America. Having land, being independent, having your own water and your own food, having your own livestock, not needing the government is not something that makes the government or corporations very powerful. In fact, it strips them of their power. So this is why we see, the FDA raiding farms and taking away raw milk as opposed to raiding cartel stash houses and moving out with a bunch of, tons of fentanyl. The priorities are very mixed up, but I don't see a civil war type situation coming to the United States because the propaganda arm is losing its power. We saw that tonight with the Biden-Trump debate. The transparency that was promised is not being given, which is by far probably the most transparent thing that this administration could have done. Right? Yeah. So the situation has changed because our consciousness has changed. We are a more conscious country, a more conscious people. And because of that, the old same tricks are not going to work. Just like the magic trick that your dad did when you were 5 doesn't work when you're 15, right? So we're growing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and the same old tricks aren't working. The Civil War scenario, while it may benefit the left or the deep state, I don't think it's likely because conservatives are not really the type to do that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously they will defend themselves and their family if it comes right down to it. But I think it's more so the left that is more likely to go out and start burning things down and starting riots. I mean, we saw that in 2020. So if and when Trump does win, I think that we might see something similar to that happening again, but the landscape has changed a little bit. And I think that if certain institutions, like, for example, BLM or Antifa, which were largely behind the riots in 2020, if we had somebody in the DOJ or in the FBI that was not obstructing these investigations into these organizations, if we had somebody that was actually there to investigate them and bring these terrorists or these radicals to justice through a fair justice system, we wouldn't see the same issue. And a lot of these people were traveling across state lines to riot. I also think that given the cartels and the amount of illegals that are in the country and all that stuff, this is, and it's unfortunate, but it's true, this is an excuse for the federal government to really crack down and do what it was supposed to do, and that is protect the homeland. The real trick here, what we have to remember, is not to enable the government with teeth and claws that will later be used to go against or go after the average citizen, the average American who loves freedom. Similar to what the Patriot Act was, a Trojan horse and is being used right now by this administration to go after real patriots. We don't want whatever needs to be done to make the country safe again to later be used to keep it hostage.
No, I agree, man. Holy shit. I 100% agree. And the reality of this is, who will win at the end of the day? Will the government win or will the people? And that is the biggest question. That I think that's what everyone that is fully awake is wondering. Will the people win versus the government? And I think most people believe the government will win because they have more powers. Dave, I want to bring this to you. This is probably the last question. I know it's getting late, even though we have, by the way, everybody, I want to point this out. We have 19,000 people watching right now still. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you. Share the stream. Go follow Investigators Podcast. That's our podcast. We are on Spotify. We talk about corruption. We talk about aliens. We talk about all this stuff, spirituality, the Bible. We are not biblical people. We do Bible podcast, and they're like, who the hell are you? Especially Christians. They're like, oh my God, man, these people are assholes. And I'm like, no, we're just trying to evaluate the Bible from like a random person standpoint. Like, you go give the Bible to a random person on the street and then you tell them to read through some of the stuff. This is what we do. And then we talk about it. Right. And Jake is very probably a lot more founded on his beliefs, and not necessarily biblically, but just in his beliefs. And Dave, I think you're probably more founded also. But Dave, who do you think wins this in the end? Is it the people or is it the government? And how much does spirituality play into this whole scenario?
I think faith is key to a happy life, man.
Yeah.
We're bred to do that. We seek that. We find things to believe in, and the people who's like, well, I don't believe in anything. That's a hell of a thing to believe in. If anything, that requires the most faith to believe in nothing. I think that's key. As far as who wins, governments or people continue, governments come and go. At the end of the day, find someone you can make some love with, have some kids, have a garden, make some friends, enjoy your life. Everything else is just nonsense and noise. It's going to come, it's going to go. That said, you got to be as prepared as you can. When the wolf comes to the door, you got to fight it off. But that's when that day comes. I'm not an advocate of going to anyone else's home and trying to kick in their door in whatever land that's in. I have no problem with them. America and Russia. I have no problem with Russia. I have no problem with these people in foreign lands that I've never met and never seen, don't know who I am. We're talking about ideologies that governments use to manipulate people to justify their own heinous actions so they can build personal wealth. That is the history of the ruling class and governments of the world. It exists only to grow itself. Governments exist only to gain more power. That's what they do.
Yeah, I do.
No, I agree. Jake, last statement. What do you think? Do the people win this or the government?
What we're dealing with is a psychological war. It is a war for our minds, which makes the mind the battlefield. That means that individuals coming to their own conclusions, ridding themselves of ego and confirmation bias, becoming their most authentic, strong, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually self, their strongest self, their best self, is the ultimate act of rebellion against a tyrannical system. Nonviolent non-cooperation and non-compliance with tyranny is the ultimate statement of freedom. Non-compliance suffocates the fire of tyranny. So we as individuals, the Libertarian Party has the saying to become ungovernable, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. That's not what the founding fathers were suggesting at all. What it should be is become self-governed. Then we make the government obsolete. The whole reason why the government's cracking down is because they're saying we need to govern the people. No, the people need to prove that they can be self-governed. And if and when that happens, which I think it's actually a lot, closer than most people, if and when that happens, then the government will be obsolete. And they won't necessarily win or lose. They will just be ineffective or unnecessary. And self-governance and independence will also be coupled with abundance and unity. And at that point, government, war, famine, disease, it's all obsolete. It's all a part of the past. And that's the kind of future I see, not a violent one.
I agree. Jake, holy shit, man. I mean, listen, first of all, I thank you guys for coming on tonight. This was an amazing debate. I mean, it CNN, all of the left-leaning media companies are calling Joe Biden basically a lunatic right now. I mean, I'm literally.
I think a lot of us called that.
Yeah,
they are going to put him out to the wolves.
Yeah, coming up, CNN focuses on how bad Joe Biden. I mean, this is what is actually happening right now, guys, and this is the shift. This is where they're going to replace Joe Biden. And who is this replacement? We don't know, but this was this was the first step. This was the first step in replacing him. I told Nathan yesterday, I said, will they pump him so full of drugs? I mean, how many drugs can you actually pump Biden full of with mental capacity, right? Like,
yeah, but he did as good as he could do. I think he did as good as he could do.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole time he was like this. Look, I'm going to get close to camera. It's like this.
Okay.
That was him, dude. And that's bad. Like when you look like you're having a stroke during a presidential debate. And by the way, I know people that have strokes, so I'm not talking shit about those people. I'm just saying this is the leader of our world, and this is why we have fires burning around the world.
And that's why we have wars everywhere.
But he's actually, this is the thing though, and this is, I think, important. He's not the leader. He's the puppet that has been placed in front of us so that we can all think that there is somebody that's in charge. When in fact, and this is what I was saying about how their lack of transparency is actually the most transparent thing they could have done, because it proves that not only is Joe Biden not actually in control, no president has been in control for a very long time, maybe with the exception of Trump. But even in Trump's 4 years in office, what we found was how it is that there's all these other powers trying to take the power back from him because they didn't have it.
No, you're right. You're right.
And not even Trump had all the powers either.
No. And by the way, I literally I have seen, we're going to have to close on this. I'm sorry, guys. We got to do one more question. I've seen quite a few questions talking about God. I don't know how we have so many questions on various platforms. I don't even know what platforms we're actually on right now. But I'm seeing YouTube. I'm seeing Instagram. I don't know. We're not streaming on Instagram or YouTube, but we are streaming on X and Rumble. Regardless, a lot of people are asking about God. Let's ask this last question. We'll get out of here. They're asking basically, what are your thoughts on God? Let me ask Jake about Jesus. Saw a couple of those questions, right? And sorry, I'm just scrolling up here because I'm seeing some of these questions, and there's a lot of questions about God. I guess probably because we got on somewhat the God topic.
And I think it's important to talk about because this is so much what's going on in our world today. Like we don't know.
God is real. People are saying
we don't know like where to even turn nowadays.
Okay, so here's how I'm going to preface this question, and actually, Dave, I want to open with Dave, and I'm going to get to Jake because I know Jake's going to have probably a pretty deep question. This is how we're going to close this episode out, and we're at 19,000 live watchers right now. How much is God important in our life right now? Is God real? Is it just a facade? Is it something that, Republicans want to push on people when they hold up the Bible and they say, this is a Christian nation, Jesus Christ, Israel, Jews, Muslims, blah, blah, blah. Dave, I'm sorry, I put it on as you first.
You can put it on me.
But we're candid right now. We're candid as shit. What is your just random thoughts, Dave, about God, Jesus, Israel, Muslims, whatever? We're gonna do candid right now. What is your thoughts? And don't hold back. Is this your thoughts? People want to probably hear your opinions.
I think what people are asking, religion or not religion.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Maybe.
Just whatever your thoughts are, Dave.
I'm not quite sure I know what that question is.
I know. I get it. Just your thoughts on God in general.
I believe in God. I pray every day.
Okay.
It's pivotal to me and my family. I don't go to church because I don't have that kind of money. It's too rich for my blood.
Oh, to give the 10% or whatever.
Allegedly. I mean, so that's the thing, right? Like I've looked at the book. Yeah, I don't have any grain to bring into the storehouse. So what I do specifically is I plant like berries and fruit trees and things like that along the outskirts of my home, because back in the day, part of the whole tradition would be you leave a certain part of your crop by the road. So as travelers who go by would have something, people who needed something would have something. And I've done that in a big way. I continue that in a big way. I'm about that. I'm about helping people in a quiet way. Like when my wife and I, we give to charity, it's not put our name on something. It's what do you need? What can I'm okay. God is good. I have a little bit more than many. What can I do to help? And let's just leave it there and keep it quiet. We don't have to tell anyone about it. I'm a big fan of that. For me, Jesus Christ is very important. It's key and pivotal to my life, to my wife's, to my family. We raise our kids that way. I'm very skeptical of any kind of organized quote unquote religion. Again, we have to be careful how we define things and what they mean, right? Because I have a faith. I have a faith in a Savior. I have a faith in God. I try and go by certain things. I try and treat others as I would treat myself. I love my neighbor as myself and God above all others, and I do my best to honor that daily. But when it gets to the organized side of things, like I went to Oral Roberts University for a while. I went to school with like Benny. I don't know if you know who Benny Hinn is. I went to school with his daughters, and I went to school with several other very important people's kids.
Did he punch people in the face? Is that a guy?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't followed for a while. I have some unbelievable horror stories from that place. And I went through a time there where I really had to question faith and belief in anything when I got to see behind the curtain, right? Yeah. And so I went down that path for a long time. And that's where I've come to now. Things are complex. There's not simple answers. You just kind of have to, you got to find your way, right? You got to find your way in what matters to you. And I'll tell you this, you need to have something to have faith in. You need to have something, because I'll tell you this, the people who are in charge of this world, go to the declassified Hillary emails, Podesta emails. These people are into some dark shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they believe it. It doesn't matter what you believe. They believe it. Yeah. They burn child effigies. That's what they do. They eat human mock sacrifices. This is what they do. Like, that's not conspiracy or conjecture. That's they publicize it. They love it. They think it's hilarious.
Yeah, they have parties and they have like these bloody cakes that they eat.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think it's far more than just the bloody.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. And it's a dark things out there, and they want you to feel small. They want you to feel weak, right? But you're not. And you're not, because they put so much effort into making you feel that way.
Yep.
Yeah. If you were nothing to worry about, they wouldn't give a shit. They would just roll over you, but they can't do that. Absolutely. You are powerful. You're important. You matter in this scheme, in this world. They want you to feel alone. They want you to feel disconnected. They want you to have those dark thoughts and allow ways for their minions to get in there. Don't. You're loved. You're important. You're special. You're here for a reason. Enjoy the beauty. Go to a national park. Go to a park. Step outside. Yes. Right? Look at how the tree and the water and the life and the squirrels and how everything is perfect. It works perfectly.
Oh my gosh. Right? I love that. Dave, holy shit. I love that.
Have some faith.
I love that. Joe, Dave Osteen right here.
But I don't want any of your money. Keep that shit for yourself.
No, Dave, I 100% agree with that.
Things do get so dark and gloomy. Yes. You never see the light of good.
No, you don't. You really don't. And listen, I am one, Jake, and I'll tell you, leading into your last comment, I'm one that has struggled, right? And we've done this podcast for 7 or 8 years now. We've done the Bible podcast. We've done a lot of stuff, but I often find myself, even though our podcast has been pretty successful for 7 years. I mean, if you get 1 million listeners or whatever the case, right now we have 19,000 people listening, and we're so freaking grateful for every single one of you. But when you have those people that are listening, you have a responsibility. You have some type of responsibility. I always feel that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like I'm failing. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing to people because I don't know, right? I don't know what my own belief system is. I don't know what I believe. I don't know if I believe what I was taught is right or
no,
what
you claim to be a Christian more.
I do.
Than
I do 100%. I do believe more in Jesus and God than anything, but also I always question everything. And let me tell you why I question things. Because if you look at the world, you look at the conspiracies, you look at all the shit that's going on nowadays, you look at the reality of our world, how can you not question just the basics, right? How can you not question even who you really are? And I think even when you look at the trans stuff or the or the people that are putting their belief systems or their spirituality in things that is not even spiritual. We're talking about Antifa or anti-fascist movements or anti-government movements in a very weird way, or racist movements, whether it's black, white, Mexican, or whatever. I feel like I'm always searching, right? I feel like I'm always longing every single day. I feel like I'm waking up and I'm like, hey, I have this opportunity to talk to people, a lot of people on a daily basis. And it's like, I am desperate to find my answers so that I can also help other people be guided. Right. And I think that, to me, that is my biggest struggle.
Yeah. And that's why, to me, I don't feel like religion or the aspect of religion.
It's not about religion, though. It's not about religion.
I'm just saying there's so many people that are questioning what is going on in this world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it about religion or is it about God? And I think there's two different things going on here.
I agree. But also, to me, it's like I wake up every day and I say, if I have a platform and I'm also struggling to find the answers, like I feel like I'm not doing the people that I talk to every single day a justice. I feel like I'm saying the superficial things. I'm saying the things that everybody else is saying, or I'm saying the things that everyone else knows. But how and when do you get to the reality of, hey guys, I think I've figured this out? And does anybody really figure it out, Jake? I mean, is it just me that feels like this every day? And why do I feel like every day I wake up and I'm like, damn it, when am I going to get to what I really truly 100% believe or not? And today is today. And every day I go to bed, I'm like, it's still not today. And I go to bed and I wake up and another day is another day. And another day I still don't know what the hell it is exactly I want to portray the people, because I can portray the people that Julian Assange is free and what he did for WikiLeaks and Biden and Trump and all this shit. But I feel like every single day that there is a more important purpose for me. And I still am not able to figure out what that purpose is to portray the people. And I feel like I am losing right now.
I'm going to talk for Jake for just a second. You're going in the wrong direction. But
No. Yeah. But that's just the way I feel.
Christ said, knock and the door shall be open, seek and you shall find, ask and it shall be given you. Right. So I think it's about dedication and discipline. My brother has a saying, and he says, there's no substitute for self-discipline. You can't take a pill and not be fat anymore. Okay. It's just not how it works. You got to be self-disciplined. And a lot of people are not mentally, emotionally, or spiritually hygienic. They tend to allow negative thoughts and emotions or people to linger. And I think that part of the reason why people suffer so much, like what you're suffering is that they're stuck almost like in a socially constructed rat maze. They're stuck in a cultural paradigm for which there is no real exit. It is a labyrinth. It is a maze, and it's made of paperwork. It's made of ink on paper, and it's made of stone buildings, mortar, wood, and glass. It's an artificial construct. It isn't actual reality, but it's made to appear real. I think that when we get into what's good and what's evil, we have to kind of define what that is and why it is that so many people are unfulfilled. So in the Amazon, they have the belief that evil is rooted in belief in the illusion of separation. And if you really grok what that means is that if we believe that we are separate, or that the world is not a unified whole, and that there are some, that we have a soul, but there are other things like nature or animals or whatever that are soulless, then we will commit soulless atrocities on nature, even though they are connected to us and they in fact have a soul. So if you look into the work of Philip Zimbardo, the guy that did the Stanford prison experiment, he found that evil has three basic characteristics everywhere throughout human history, throughout every nation. Number one is dehumanization. So belief in the illusion of separation so much that you dehumanize a person or a group of people. Number two is you have a socially reinforced cultural paradigm that reinforces this dehumanization. You live in a cultural echo chamber that dehumanizes an individual or another group. And then the last thing that is the root of all evil is a certain level of anonymity, or not, or covering your face with a mask or some level of anonymity that allows you to feel separated from the evil acts that you're doing, or feel like it won't come back to you personally.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the basic template of all evil that has been done throughout history, they have these basic characteristics, whether it be like what happened in Nazi Germany, what happened in the USSR, what happened in genocides in the past, whether it be like the one that was, the Canaanites versus the Israelites, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at what's good, if belief in the illusion of separation is evil, and causes all this other evil and dehumanization and all this other stuff and destruction, then the opposite of that would be belief in the truth of unity and behaving as though we are a unified whole, behaving as though everything is a part of the same being or the same creator. Love thy neighbor as thyself. I and the Father are one and the same. Right? These things and greater you will also do. Have faith the size of a mustard seed. You'll move mountains. Have I not said ye are gods?
Yeah. Right.
So we as human beings are very, very powerful, whether it be in a creative sense or in a destructive sense. And we have socially constructed illusions that empower very specific families and people for millennia. And they have used these systems to subvert our soul power and harness it and use it toward their own gain, which is more power for them, less for us, more destruction, more war, more profit, etc. And if we look at the greatest people that have lived throughout humanity's history, whether it be people like the Buddha or the Christ or Krishna, the prophets, the saints, and the sages, what do they always say? Love is the answer. What do they say? Unity, the truth of unity, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Find internal peace. Forget this cultural paradigm. Forget the words that are written in that book. Forget what is going on in that building made of stone and mortar. The temple is here. You are the temple. And so ultimately what it comes down to is personal experience. And this is why having a personal relationship with God, whether that be through Jesus or through Buddha or Siddhartha or through Yeshua is actually Jesus' real name, or it be through your own self-discipline that you devote toward a ceremonial and religious endeavor of purifying your heart, mind, body, and soul. And when you do that and you truly reach out to God, God meets you halfway. Because God wants to connect with you as much as you want to connect with God. What father would give his son a stone when he asks for a loaf of bread, right? So knock and the door shall be opened. Seek and you shall find. Ask and it shall be given you. And when you do so with faith, when you have a tremendous amount of faith in the truth of unity and a faith in God and this omnipresent source that hears your prayers, knows you by name, and loves you, and you create that frequency within you of joy, of peace, of love, of harmony, then you contribute that to the whole. And then you are thus rewarded with more of it. And you get into this feedback loop of bliss and love, of truth and unity that ends up affecting everybody around you in so much better of a way than if you were to live in an egoic illusion of separation. This is why people like Christ were so impactful. And this is why if we really, really want to change the world, you got to start by changing yourself.
By the way, Jake, I'm seeing some comments here, and this is the last thing I have to point out because I've seen this. We got 20,000 people watching right now, and I'm seeing some comments. They're saying you're a government agent. And listen, guys. The reality is that is ridiculous to me.
No, I feel like he's my savior preacher guy.
No, but it's just ridiculous to me that people think you're a government agent, and I don't understand why people think that. I've seen that before, and maybe, by the way, the reason why people think that is because maybe people are relating
you went
that
to jail for 3 years.
No, maybe because they made you the face of January 6th, right? I mean, they did make you the face of January 6th, and so automatically,
much to their detriment, though.
Yeah, but a lot of people believe like, okay, if they made him the face, the QAnon shaman, right? And then a lot of people connect QAnon to the government. Maybe it's a psyop to where they wanted to basically make.
If I may. what it is that they're in a place now where nobody knows what the fuck to believe. Because there's so much disinformation and misinformation out there that everybody that has some theory thinks that they know what is going on. I see a comment here that's, how else is he out of jail while there's other J6ers still in jail? And it's like, look, dude, I've already answered this question like literally hundreds of times. I was one of the first arrested. I was one of the first that pled guilty. I was one of the first sentenced. I got a 41-month sentence. I got a year off for good behavior and FSA credits. I was let go to the halfway house 2 months before my sentence was over, after my year was taken off. I was one of the first to go through the gauntlet. That's why lots of people chose to go to trial. Lots of people weren't arrested yet. Lots of people chose to fight this out over years and refused to cooperate with the government. You don't fight a battle you know you can't win. When they offered me a plea deal and said, you'll have 41 months or 51 months, I realized that if I went to trial, I'd get 20 years. And my judge said as much at my sentencing. He said, if you went to trial, you were looking at 20 years. So like, you don't fight a battle. This is Sun Tzu, Art of War. You don't fight a battle in the rain. You don't fight a battle uphill, and you don't fight a battle in the dark, right? Yeah. Fighting in the Washington, D.C. courts is fighting in the rain, uphill, and in the dark all at once, all right? Yeah, I'm not going to – if they can rig an election, they can rig a jury box, dude. So when it comes to this government agent shit, I honestly believe half of those people that say that are likely feds that are just trying to sow disinformation, because at this point, anybody that believes that is either really, really dumb or is a fed, or they're just really confused. And that's possible. At this point, I will let you know when I care what idiots think. I'll finish on a quote that said, I think it was Mark Twain that said, it's easier to fool people than convince them that they have been fooled.
Yeah, true. Well, listen, I wanted to point that out because I've seen a lot of those comments, and I've seen them on the internet before. And, you know, we have 20,000 people, and I was like, man, we got to ask him, and I'm glad you said that. Guys, this has been an amazing live stream. I think it's been fun. I mean, Dave, do you think? How do you think? I mean, I think it went pretty good, right? I mean, you know, Biden. I think Biden did pretty freaking amazing, dude. Right?
Yeah, he's the most popular president in history. We're blessed to have gotten to hear his magical words, and that silver-tongued devil just, you know, charmed the world. And it's rough.
Yeah,
man.
I thought it was great, guys. But listen, guys, everyone, for those that don't know, Jake Angeli Chansley, obviously he's on X. Jake, where do you want people to follow you? What are you doing right now? Let everyone know where they can follow you and find you.
You can find me on X or Twitter at America Shaman. That's America Shaman, at America Shaman on X or Twitter. You can also go to my website, ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com. That's Forbidden Truth, TRUTH, academy.com, where we have literally dozens of hours of free content that you can watch, you can listen to, whether it be interviews or podcasts or spaces. There's also, you can buy my book, One Mind at a Time, A Deep State of Illusion. It's only $9.99, and it's only 150 pages. If you want to know who and what the deep state is, that's the book that you're going to want to read. It'll explain everything you need to know. There's also a bunch of really awesome merchandise on my website. And if you want to see my videos that are on Rumble, you can find me at Yellowstone Wolf AZ. That's all one word, Yellowstone Wolf AZ, all one word, all caps, on Rumble.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Jake. And Dave, where can people find you? By the way, we do some podcasts with you quite a few times with Alien Addict. And, where can people find you, Dave?
Alien Addict would be the best place to find me. At some point, we'll do a Conspiracy Mothership. We're trying to figure that one out. I also wrote some books, but I'm gonna keep that on the side. You got to find them if you can find them.
By the way, listen, I think we got to do more of these live streams like this. Yeah. Like I mean, tell us, guys. I mean, do you think we should do these? Because I mean, yes, it was a debate stream, but we're like at 20,000 people. I mean, I know Alex Jones has like,
and I think it goes to like personal experiences and things that we all talk about. And I think it's very important to get into like the minds of, you know, people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously the debate, you know, we had to listen to that crazy shit for 90 minutes. But, you know, I mean, the amount of deep conversation you can get into, I think there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions right now. And obviously we do podcast quite often. You guys can find our podcast on Spotify, Instagram, or not Instagram, but Spotify, Apple, all of the other podcast platforms. We talk about corruption, aliens. We talk about everything. We talk about the JFK assassination. We talk about all of that.
Yeah. And I have a lot of people that are interested in the shaman like aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You
for
know,
sure.
and I want to learn more about that for like, I really do. I want to bring you on just for the shaman.
Even if it's on X, and then we'll release the audio as well. But we'll bring Dave back on, bring our regular guest, and maybe we can kind of do this to kind of just suss out some stuff, right? Like, let's get into some details about things, and let's get a lot of people in here to where maybe the last 30-minute section of our show, we have questions, and maybe you, Jake, can answer them. And if I am at all, or Sherry, by then knows anything, which I don't think we do yet. Right now, we're literally just we're in the median right now.
No, that's you, Chad.
We're in the median trying to figure out if we're going back this way or going that way, and it's weird to feel that way. And I feel like when I hear people like you, Jake, and even you, Dave. By the way, I mean, Dave, you're not like as like, I guess 100% devout in some ways, even though you may be actually just not as forward speaking.
No, I just think it's a different way that
it is.
You know,
it is, but I like hearing that because I think you got to hear it.
But in both of them, they gave us positive reinforcements instead of negative. Because that's all we hear now is negative.
Yeah.
And both of you guys gave us positive things to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing on our podcast is like we got to do better at being positive because we are a podcast to expose corruption, but also at the same time we have to also give people hope. And I don't want to ever just feel like people don't have hope. And I think that's why I love you guys so much, because I think both of you guys have given a lot of hope. I think Ashton has done a great job tonight as well. Nathan, we thank all of our guests tonight. Guys, whatever you think about the presidential debates, I think the last part of this show was the best part of anything.
It definitely was, but it was kind of fun, like making fun.
It was kind of fun. Some people got pissed off because we made fun of people. I saw some comments, but the reality is that we got into some serious stuff, and I think the serious stuff.
I think this is what's more important.
Yeah,
we need to like go with this.
Yeah, I think people want to know the answers, and although they may not 100% get the answers from what you guys are saying, it might just edge them more on the other side of what they don't already know. And I think that's me. I wake up every day, I don't know, and I think there's so many people that don't know. Right. And listen, I think Jake probably wakes up with some of the same feelings at sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure. But I think as long as you know you have God in your life, that's all you need. It doesn't matter about religion or what religion you follow. I don't think any of that matters. As long as you know God is there and you feel God in your life, that's what you need.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know. I might be way off.
I feel like I'm always needing more. But guys, thank you guys so very much for coming on. We're going to announce, by the way, follow all of us. Follow Jake, follow L Dave, which is Conspiracy Mothership. Follow Alien Addict, Ashton Forbes, Nathan Jones. He's clear nasal spray. If you don't want to get COVID, get nasal spray. And clear nasal spray, XLEAR. And we love you guys so very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking your time tonight.
Jake, Dave, everybody, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It meant a world to us.
Have a great night.